It's Thursday night, and you know what that means. We've got another amazing episode of Hey, did you see this one? Oh, hello, everybody. It's us again. It's Thursday night, and we're on Twitch. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, look, we have a guest again.
Bonjour.
We have a guest again. This is Hey, Did You See This One? The weekly podcast where we ask the simple question, hey, did you see this one? I'm joined by always, of course, Steve and Kaylin, and this week we have a special guest, Becca Friesen. Hello, Becca. Welcome to the show.
Bonjour. Thank you for having me.
Oh, where's the applause soundboard?
I don't have it. It's too loud.
That's
No,
not
go
too
for it.
loud. It's not too loud.
Okay, here, I'll play it. I'll play the sound.
And our guest this week is Becca Friesen.
And our sound this week is clapping.
Oh,
I'm
God.
typing it in. Look, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, and our guest this week is Becca Friesen. And our guest...
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Sometimes they go on for too long. Thank you for coming to the show. Your guest this week, of course, is Steve, as he chose the guest, and we have a little game that we play. It's called If You Pick the Guest, You're the Host. So take it away, Steve.
It's a fun game. Hello, everybody. It's me, Steve, one of the three hosts of the show. This week, we are continuing our newly frontiered theme, which is not really a theme at all. It's just movies that came out within memory. We all remember them coming out. As Jason mentioned, we have a guest today, Becca, my friend Becca. We met a few years ago working together. Becca you've dabbled in the world of film.
A recovering actor is how I'm being introduced at my new job, which is on the production side of audio and voiceover, and really enjoying that. It's very cool.
Yeah, actually,
Cool.
Becca provided some voices for a project that I was working on during the pandemic.
I still dabble occasionally, but
The main reason that I asked you to be on the show this week was kind of a more niche reason than some of the other guests, and it's because I had recalled that when we were working together, you told me that you were a puppeteer of sorts.
I am, and I have all sorts of puppet feelings about this movie.
That's good. I thought you might, and I thought maybe you could give us some sort of weird insight on how filming a puppet is different than filming a human being. But that being said, the movie that we're doing this week is the recently released horror comedy M3GAN with a 3.
I just want to interject with something here. When I came up with this theme for this month, I was like, why don't we do movies that are from 2023? And while this movie was technically released in January of 2023, it's actually listed as a 2022 movie. So
yeah, I think it had an early release outside of 2023.
Probably in like a film festival capacity, I would imagine.
Outside of, yeah.
And then all the memes started happening. So
it got a lot of buzz. I remember people could not shut up about this movie.
Mm-hmm. It's because it's been a very long time since we've had a killer puppet, and to have her be have such presence and also be reminiscent of something like Chucky, which is one of my favorite film franchises of all time. It's exciting. And
give us a Chucky, Steve. Give us a Chucky.
How dare you interrupt me, you bitch! Shut up, you whore, or whatever. I don't know. That's what he says, right? He just calls everybody a whore or a bitch. Anyway, M3GAN doesn't do that. Actually, she does. At one point, she does.
She does
goes
literally
full Chucky
call
mode
Katie
near
a
the end.
bitch.
Yeah.
I've
She
never
calls
actually
a child.
seen Chucky.
Oh, well,
It's one of those movies that I've seen enough clips of, and I understand the jokes, the kind of rough I'm like, okay, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's sort of a big franchise in the queer community, specifically because of its connections to it and all these actors and filmmakers who are part of the LGBT community and have the soft spot for the storytelling, and the writer and recently director of a few of the movies he's been the same person since the beginning. So he's been this sort of like presence that has sort of had his influence from the very beginning all the way up until the television show that came out a couple of years ago.
A Chucky television show?
There is. It's called Chucky.
I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
Oh, is that soundboard?
No, Chucky's here.
Chucky's here.
I may have to go back from the beginning and give it a whole other chance. Maybe I saw it pre.
What, Chucky?
Yeah, maybe I saw it pre-puppet years, and then when I understood more about puppetry, and like then I probably would have got more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's.
I think in my brain it was kind of like Gremlins, and I'm like, yeah, Gremlins good.
It is reminiscent of Gremlins. It's much more archaic too, and it's not like. We talked about this a lot. We've done the first 3, and it like scared the shit out of me as a kid. But as an adult, it's like child's play.
Yeah.
Watching this is child's play. Yeah, I mean, that being said, M3GAN gives me some pretty clear parallels in terms of what Chucky started as and what he has, become over decades of filmmaking and television making. But the way we begin each episode is we like to go around the table and ask everybody the first time that they've seen the movie that we're going to be discussing. The one sort of shortcoming of that for this month is that we all pretty much saw these movies very recently, so we're not going to have some sort of grand tale about it. But if you have any interesting thoughts on your first impressions, then you're more than welcome to share them with us. So, Becca, if you'd like to begin, when's the first time that you saw M3GAN?
2 nights ago. See, this is like, when did you actually finish your homework? I'm like, last night. But like, I did it. I did do it, and I got to the deadline. So you're getting a very like immediate, visceral
fresh
review
take
from me. Absolutely, and I loved it. It was thoroughly enjoyable. I was laughing out loud the whole time. I really enjoyed it. So my husband is terrified of horror movies, and actually, I have to warn him if I'm watching horror movies in advance on our like shared TV. I usually have to watch them alone. And so I was like, please, will you watch M3GAN with me? Because we'd like to chat through movies and whatever. I don't know. So now
I'll hold your hand if you get scared.
Yeah, but now I've talked about it so much. He's like, okay, now I actually want to watch it. So we will watch it again.
It is more funny than it is scary.
Also,
it was really funny.
Yeah. Not the version I watched.
If you watch the theatrical, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we should say that Steve and Kaylin both watched unrated, and I watched the PG-13.
I watched both.
You watched both. Which version did you watch, Becca? Just whatever was on.
I realize it now. I watched the unrated, but with. Or no, I watched the PG-13 with subtitles that showed me every time they said fuck. It was really funny to me because I could tell where they had like cut the swear word out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's so clever. Okay, so that's how they do like the 2. Okay.
That's awesome.
That is the major difference.
I could read it every time.
Yeah, because in PG-13 you can only get away with saying fuck once. So there's obviously, in the unrated, there's a lot more swearing. And
now I need to go back and see if M3GAN ever says fuck. I don't think she does, but it was just kind of funny. I could tell like the emphasis.
She does. She says, I think it's the only time she says it in the PG-13 movie is the only fuck, and it's when she's like, I'm going to rip your fucking head off if you say anything. And you're like, oh my God. This doll is scary. All right. Well, as I said, there's not going to be a ton of backstory for each of us, but let's move on to Kaylin. Kaylin, when's the first time you watched M3GAN?
Hey, so my first experience with this movie was, I think, Sunday. It's over on Prime. Prime has both versions, but for some reason, now I have just like basic Prime, and this is a side note. I really hate when Prime shows me movies that I can't watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that aside, so Prime has both versions, but you can watch the theatrical PG-13 fine, and then you have to pay for the unrated. So I watched the unrated.
Still the 7 C's, eh?
Exactly. And when it started, for some reason, it was in Spanish, and it was also like a really weird commercial. So I was like, what the F did I just download? Did I just break my computer or whatever?
Yeah, you turns out sort of Spanish computer virus.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, I guess, the presets on that copy, though. But so my first experience was this. I think it was Sunday or Monday, and I watched the unrated one. I watched the rated or the PG-13 one, and the I think there was only one like actual scene that I noticed that was different, and then other than that, there's a little bit of less swearing and a little less gore. I personally liked the swearing because it felt real to me, like how people naturally talk. But that was my first experience with this movie, M3GAN. M3GAN.
Yeah.
That's
it is
That's how I've heard it pronounced.
Megan, they all call her something different in this movie. I think that the unfortunate reality is that James Wan, as a writer, like he provides us with all these spooky, weird, part action, part horror, part, thriller, and all comedy. But his movies are generally marketed to the PG-13 demographic because it obviously ends up allowing them to make more money in the theater. But it is nice that they can have an unrated version be released, even though it's so negligibly different, unless you watch them
back to the early 2000s where you'd get like the 14A version of like an
I mean they still
movie,
do it,
and then
they still do it
unrated.
now, right? But yeah, it's more prevalent when you're younger because it actually impacts you on what you can see and not see. But it's all about the money these days. Jason, why don't you
what's that called again?
It's called a cash grab.
Cash grab. Nice one, Kaylin.
Jason,
I missed it.
Why don't you tell us about your first time watching M3GAN?
So, sure, I watched it. I watched it over the last couple days. I like to watch movies in parts because I'm a plebeian who can't sit still for 2 straight hours unless I'm in like a theater or like it's a movie I really want to see. And this, like Cocaine Bear last week was a movie I wanted to see, and I sat through the whole thing. And this one I should have sat through and watched the whole thing. And especially, I watched the last 10 minutes on my brand new 65-inch TV like an hour ago, and it
Name drop.
On your brand new big screen TV.
Why don't you show off a little more? Why don't you?
I saved up for this TV for 5 years, you son of a bitch.
And write it off as a business expense.
Exactly.
Review movies.
Exactly. I bought the TV for this podcast. So basically I watched it this week, right, for the first time. However, I do have a bit of a history with this because I am on TikTok. And I know about this movie because of the push that they put on TikTok, which was the scene where she walks through and does the little dance. That went viral.
And there's probably 100,000 drag queens worldwide that have recreated that dance. Yeah. And
that was so weird to me when it first dropped on the internet that I was like, what the fuck is this? And I remember seeing it really early on because like I'm on TikTok so much that like I see all these I see viral sensations happen in real time, and then like a week later it was like that's from a trailer for this like new killer doll movie, and I was like, oh
yeah.
And we were doing this podcast, we were doing Chucky, we've done, like I said, we did the first 3 Chuckies over the last couple of years, and I immediately was like, we got to do this. We got to talk about this on the show somehow. And then this month was sort of built around this movie and you coming on to talk about the puppetry of it. So like, there was a domino effect to get to tonight. So
yeah, I think I asked you to be on the podcast like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
It's like, Becca, you want to be on the podcast in the summertime? I know it's still cold.
That's been happening.
I don't live in Ontario anymore. I'm out on the West Coast now. So
a lot of our guests are like, you asked me to be on the show 17 months ago, so I figured I should show up for the one date you asked me. So thank you for being here. I'm excited to get some insight because the puppet.
Well, if you're going to go back and watch all the Chuckies, then you might as well come back in October to do the Chucky 4 episode.
I'm down.
Awesome.
I'm down.
The Bride of Chucky. It's one of the best ones.
Honestly, I think I've seen clips. It was almost like a little too, when did the first one come out? I might have just been a bit too young. Like it would be. I'd have been 6, so it might have been too scary for me, or I would not have been allowed to watch it, and maybe that's why I kind of just haven't revisited it. But
yeah, I was born in '85, so like there were like 3 of them out by the time I was like 6 or 7, and I was like, that's too much. That's a nightmare.
Yeah,
that's nightmare material. Like Friday the 13th is another one. Like my name is Jason, so everybody's like, "Ooh, is your favorite movie Friday the 13th?" Like,
right.
no, actually, couldn't.
Yeah, I named
possibly.
myself after my favorite movie.
Did you wear a hockey mask for Halloween?
I've done that exactly one time.
Nice.
A few years ago.
Literally.
And that is my experience with this movie. Mostly the TikTok was so prevalent that it was undeniable.
Can I say, every time you say I'm on TikTok, like you say it like a little ashamed. I fucking love TikTok. And I went away with my girlfriends this weekend and none of them are on TikTok. And I was trying to explain like shit that's already gone viral and is already like on its way out. And they have no idea what I'm talking about. And it's infuriating.
They'll see it on Reels in a couple months.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm like, I am not like, I take a social media break. Like I'm trying not to do like acting stuff because it's just, the social media angle is pushed really hard.
Yeah.
Everyone like, why don't you just try to be famous first? And I'm like, no.
I don't want to. Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
But I fucking love TikTok.
Me too.
Well, just think about how much fun you'll have with your friends 6 months from now when they're all talking about the Grimace Shake.
Yeah, the Grimace Shake
God.
in 14 months from now.
Even like sweet, like I don't know, like there was that "If I Were a Fish" song. Do you see that one on TikTok? It was so sweet and heartwarming, and I'm like, I just want to talk to someone about this really adorable, and no one knows. Yeah. And then if I send it to them, they go, "Oh, it's on TikTok," and I'm like,
"That's my." I try
it's
to send
a video
these...
sharing service.
Yes.
Let me share my videos with you.
I have to download the TikToks to send to people because they're like, "I'm not clicking that. I'm not clicking that link.
I'm not downloading the app. I'm not doing it." I spam my husband with TikTok. We have it. It's bad. Like that's.
Oh yeah, that's what me and Jason's
me and
friendship has become. Is just sending each other TikToks. But I sent.
It's a love language.
I sent a TikTok to my friend Vince, and he's like a globe-trotting doctor, and he's like, I opened up the TikTok to watch it, and I had to download TikTok, and I ended up staying on TikTok for 2 hours. So I deleted TikTok, and I will never install it again.
Yeah, it's pretty addictive.
People are kind of on two sides of that fence. They're like, either it's way too addictive or it's China stealing all my information. So
why not?
And there's no in between.
It's definitely both, right? Like
it's definitely both.
But I will say, Jason, I had forgotten about that TikTok campaign, and I remember being super intrigued because I was like, "Killer Doll."
It's from the song is that part of Poker Face, just like the bridge in Poker Face.
No. The song's called "Walk the Night" by Scat Brothers.
Yeah, in the movie, but on
talking about the trailer, Kaylin.
The TikTok. It would not even.
It
wasn't in the trailer like that. Anyway, the TikTok was her dancing to just the bridge from Poker Face by Lady Gaga, and that was the TikTok. Yeah. That was the TikTok, and everybody's like,
"That's it."
It's
no
one
context,
aspect,
fucking love
at all. You're just like, what is happening here? And it was super creepy. I was very into how creepy it was.
It was better with the music that they put
in the movie.
Yeah.
I also think that the utilization of pop music in this movie was very well implemented and super cool.
Were they all Ava Max songs? Because I recognize them sort of. Anyway, we'll get into.
Well, there's Bullet or Titanium or whatever.
Kalen's raising his hand.
Kaylin, what would you like to add?
No. I raised my hand so that you guys can finish talking, and then.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
No,
Kaylin, when Kaylin has his hand up,
it means thank you for helping me interrupt.
No, that's a rule for Kaylin. Not
everybody
for
stop. I am gonna stop my video because I'm gonna grab myself a drink, and you don't need to see me wander around my apartment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Quick little interruption. Movie title shout out. 7 minutes 45 seconds.
I was gonna say all day today. I was like, Kaylin's gonna interject 5 minutes into this because they've name dropped this movie immediately.
Yeah,
that's M3GAN.
I mean, they also say her name 1 billion times in this movie, so it would be weird if they didn't, when her name is M3GAN. But also they do the acronym. It's an acronym, right? It's like the
but what about the N?
Oh, shit,
taking it from the N after the A in Android. I don't like that. How can an acronym? How can have you 2 letters?
Oh, because her name would be Mega, and that doesn't sound as cute as a doll for children.
And also, then that means that the name should be M3GA lowercase n.
Lowercase n. Okay, I'm down with that.
There's also a 3 in there. That's not an E. That's not how language works. It's a cute thing. That's what they did. They thought of the name first.
I'm doing my little nitpicking.
Yeah, it's called being facetious, and I hate it.
Well, Kaylin, if you want to do your little segment that you came up with last week after the show, where we figure out where they started and worked backwards from. Somebody wrote M3GAN with
reverse engineering.
Yeah. Somebody wrote M3GAN with a 3 on a piece of paper.
Did anybody?
You know what I tried doing? I'm not sure if it'll come up, but I tried writing M3GAN in all numbers.
Okay.
There's a fallen down 3. There's an upward 3. There's a 6, 4, and a 2 on its side.
I like that a lot.
That would be such a confusing poster to like old people. You'd be like, "What the fuck is this called?" You're like, M3GAN. What is this movie?
What is this Elon Musk's baby's name?
Yeah. So anyway, the movie is directed by Gerard Johnstone, who is a relatively new director. He directed a TV show in the sort of like late noughts up to the 2010s, and then he directed a couple of movies in between this and that, but not a huge filmography so far. But I think he did a pretty darn good job if it was up to me to decide.
Shout out to Blumhouse Productions too.
Blumhouse.
Oh, is that how you say it? My apologies, yeah. Blumhouse.
It's named after Robert Blum,
Paul
or whatever
Blum?
his name is.
Oh,
yeah.
Paul Blum.
It's named
Maltop?
after Paul Blart Maltop. Paul Blum. And then James Wan, obviously, who's sort of this film generation's like horror mastermind. I think that he's kind of hit or miss for me, but I do typically enjoy a lot of his stuff. I think that like his sort of ghost vibe would be very well suited to join up with the Sony Ghostbusters universe. Like, just have the Ghostbusters fighting Insidious or something, or like,
oh, that might be kind of cool. You know what hits for me every time though? These I kind of want to call it techno horror, like technology horror, like kind of like Black Mirror. I don't even know the word to use. Like, what? Let me ask you guys, what is this genre called? What is this tech horror genre?
I just say "Whoa, Black Mirror." I think that was from another podcast. It's just, you can't say "Whoa, Black Mirror" every time something you get like a spam phone call, but like it is very "Whoa, Black Mirror." People know exactly what you're saying.
I'm gonna call it tech horror though. That's what I'm gonna call it.
Tech horror, sci-fi horror, yeah, for sure. But it's not even really sci-fi because we're gonna get one of these things, one of these talking dolls like this. Because in the beginning they actually have like a Furby sort of analog.
Yeah.
Which was a thing. I'm surprised we don't have a Furby now that has AI in it. I'm sure we're gonna get that.
I think it's because
we're a little bit. Why would you say that out fucking loud?
You're welcome.
You've manifested it.
Christmas 2024, Furby 2.0.
Oh God, no.
I was going to point out that like, that this technology is still relatively new in terms of like ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff, but they have started putting it into video games. There's a mod now you can get in Skyrim where they have an AI bot with an AI voice that you can just have a conversation with through a microphone or through text. So your companion will follow you around in Skyrim, and you can be like, "Hey, what do you think about all these Forsworn? Like, do you think we should be eliminating them?" And then the AI will learn about the behavior and be like, "I think that they're just defending their land, their territory, and everything that we're doing is maybe considered genocide right now." And it's going to get crazier and crazier, but like stuff like this, I would just consider science fiction more than horror, right? Because science fiction at its core is often horrific, and if you go back to the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits and all that kind of stuff, and even X-Files, it's all science fiction based, but it's super duper horrific because what's scarier than humanity creating something that's out of its control, right? And I think that M3GAN is sort of that insular starting point of what is believable. Like, it is believable, right? It's the difference between this and Chucky. Chucky is a serial killer strangler who loves murdering women, who uses a medallion voodoo magic to put himself into a doll, whereas this is just the doll learning self-preservation and having a malfunction.
Doesn't the Chucky reboot sort of, isn't it closer to this? I haven't seen it.
Yes it is.
The reboot, yeah.
Very similar.
It's like an animatronic that is possessed. I don't know.
It got like
toy,
short-circuited or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a toy. It's literally the same story, pretty much, except
it's a high-tech toy.
Kills a lot more people, and it has a very like, I want to kill everybody now because it's fun to me. Whereas M3GAN is more like, I don't want you to turn me off. Yeah, like, and if you do, I'm going to kill you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that actually, I have a question. I'm not sure if it's too soon to ask this question, but was she ever turned off?
I think that she uploaded her consciousness to the internet immediately, and that's what that last scene of the Alexa being like,
Elsie.
Elsie.
I think that she was probably being turned off in the beginning a little bit, but as soon as she realized that somebody had the power to turn her off while she was in the middle of a conversation, that's when she decided not to. I also think
to start faking it.
Just to be like, I know.
Exactly.
She's a good little actress. She got, she knew exactly what she was doing.
Yeah. She's describing herself as a recovering actress now, actually.
I feel like if I dressed up as M3GAN for Halloween, it'd be like, come on, it's not. This is a while ago. The meme already happened. No,
you can't.
The movie was great.
You have to learn the whole dance, though.
I just saw M3GAN on Reels.
I'd love to learn a dance for a Halloween costume.
I just heard about this new movie on. Hey, did you see this one?
Yeah.
I also do think that up until she gets attacked by the dog, I think that she is still abiding by the rules that have been presented to her. Because
that was another question I had.
I have
the dog attack that started it all.
I have a Jason's theory corner about that, and it's exactly what Kaylin's asking.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you what I believe. So it's I think that the dog attack, because it deliberately shows her like head frying, and then no one ever checks on it afterwards, right? Like, and her hair is all matted, and she's just staring at the neighbor. I started cackling, laughing at that part because it's doing the slow push, and the neighbor is just like, "Okay, I need to go inside."
That's messed
little
up.
Psychopath.
Why is that doll looking at me like that? Like,
but it's the first moment where she's almost, because she looks at the helicopter, right, and you see her staring at the helicopter and realizing that like that's a piece of technology, just like I am. But also it's free to fly through the air. I'm trapped in this house and I'm having to deal with this girl. And it's almost like she's having this sort of existential thought process of like, what am I? Am I a machine just like that helicopter, or am I something more than that?
I thought she was looking for like threats because she was still very much like in protect. Like she was.
It did look like that too, yeah. Like a
trying
style,
to protect the girl for a bit, like.
So if we go back even further, though, when they're
sorry, I don't need to jump so far ahead, but
no, that's cool. Like, I'm not trying to. Sometimes we go by the plot, but this is kind of a jump around movie because there's a lot of stuff and it's a pretty basic plot. But when she's actually up on the thing at the beginning, near the beginning, and they're working on her, and her face does that little like,
I love that
twitch.
Scene.
The smirk.
What's wrong with her?
That smirk comes back constantly, and it's actually kind of an endearing psychopath meld. But I'm wondering if she was
I just looked at myself and I'm like, oh, I'm doing the smirk right now. Jason has often accused me of a smirk, having a smirk
you
on
have
my
a little
face.
bit of a smirk on your face.
I can see it on your left side.
Yeah.
But it was also like not quite like it. Like she's very uncanny valley, anyways. But they somehow made her expression like worse.
She's also kind of like squinting with one eye, like.
Yeah.
It's like before they even put the chip in her. Right? Like
it's right when they put the chip in her.
Right. Okay. But I think that's her first, like, that's the primordial ooze of the AI learning. Like, she has a little bit of like that tinge. There's something wrong in the programming, and she says as much later in the movie where she's like, "You programmed me. We learned together at first, but the thing that you created, you have no idea what you made here. Like, you don't even." And that's what we're experiencing with AI in real life now, too. We don't have... this thing's going to get away from us eventually, just like M3GAN gets away pretty quick. And if you look at movies like I, Robot, where it's a distant future where like things have gone out of hand, or the movie or the video game Detroit... what's that?
Detroit Rock City, yeah.
No.
Detroit Rock City.
The Android game is called Detroit something or other, but it's basically a future.
Become Human. Becca just said it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's a future where like the androids start to realize that like we have enough in us to be human-like. Where does humanity end and begin for us? And this movie, this version of it, and this version of like a Chucky killer doll, it plays around with that a lot more than like Chucky. Chucky is literally a man inside a doll. You know what I mean? Like,
not just a man, a serial killer. Yeah.
So at the beginning, when she's on the thing and something like a fire starts, or some sort of spark.
Her
I'm
head
like,
explodes.
It's like a short circuit situation. I thought it was like,
Okay.
oh no, something went wrong, and now she's alive. And then it actually was like, okay, wait, never mind.
Yeah,
like the movie Short Circuit.
So that's what
Home Alone of it all.
Yeah, I was waiting for I was like, oh, I thought it was going that way, and I think they were kind of playing with that trope a little bit, like. That's
Speaking
like you're saying,
trope,
it's like that primordial, that moment of like when the AI just suddenly comes into
place.
existence and a little bit like sentient, maybe a bit worse than what she intended to design. It's like that.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like they kind of touched on tropes a little bit. Like there was some that they kind of followed through on. There was some where they were like, do the old Kansas shuffle, make you look left and then go right kind of thing.
Yeah, like the introduction of the prototype robot, like Bruce or Bert or whatever it was. Bruce reminded me of...
I love Bruce.
As soon as they intro Bruce, I'm like, Bruce is coming back, baby.
Oh, absolutely.
He's coming back to fist fight M3GAN at the end. I know it.
That machine reminded me of RoboCop's arch nemesis Eddie or whatever from RoboCop 3 or 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, these guys have the same dynamic except it's flipped. I also have a question for you guys. Please tell me, and I need to know, why did Gemma build this robot to have superhuman strength?
I think the idea was that. So I think the crux of that is when Katie says, if I had a doll like M3GAN, I would never need another toy ever again. So the reasoning behind making her indestructible was that if you buy one, it will last forever, and you'll never have to get it.
Yeah, the hottest
toy. Also, it's a robot. It's not limited to human capabilities. It can do, you know what I mean? Like
She wasn't thinking that it was going to turn into a ninja robot killer. She thought it was just going to be a toy.
They can run on all fours and fucking.
Oh my god, that's my favorite part.
Mode. Me too. That and like the end when she's all.
I do think we should do a little bit of housekeeping with the story at the beginning, just to set up for the listener who may not have seen the movie. Katie is the niece.
If you haven't, go watch it first.
Or just keep listening and then decide.
Or
get out of here. We don't want you to watch anyway.
Okay, now you've seen the movie and we're back. Go ahead, Steve.
So, the way we open the movie is a very over-the-top sort of early 2000s style toy commercial, which I think is absolutely hilarious. It's so well shot, so well done. It made me believe that I was watching not necessarily something that would actually exist, but it would, it's so close enough. And the way that our sort of humor has evolved since the early 2000s in TikTok culture, and the fact that this movie is not made for children but made for teenagers, it's goofy and funny. And like the fact that the thing poops and it's like, whoopsies, I pooped again over here. You're like, oh, these toys are funny.
It was the gums for me. It was the open mouth of it. Oh, it was awful.
If you feed it too much, it'll poop. And then like they show the commercial later for the rival version toy, and it's just like the same exact thing, but it's like, also its butt changes color to tell its mood. So someone's like rubbing its butt, and you're like, okay, this is funny.
I want one.
Yeah.
I would buy it.
But then we cut from this sort of very jovial, hilarious moment to a couple arguing in a snowstorm and driving through a snowstorm with their daughter in the background who has the toy.
Can I just... Man, these parents, we don't learn a whole lot about
Listen,
them.
I was about to tell them that I was going to tell you they're shitty. They're shitty parents.
What we do learn about these parents throughout the whole course of the movie is that, first of all, they're constantly arguing. They hate everything that Katie's doing. And then later we find out Katie's extremely homeschooled, which is really indicative of why Katie kind of sucks. She kind of reminds me of the kid from the Chucky movies who's really really independent, but in that bad way where he just hasn't learned anything in life.
I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Good Son. Have you guys seen that movie before?
No, that movie scared the shit out of me as a kid.
So this movie has a very similar vibe to that. It's, I believe, Elijah Wood
and Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah,
Macaulay Culkin.
Macaulay, that's right.
Yeah.
And just the sort of the feeling of like M3GAN and Katie together, where one of them is just a regular child and the other one is almost pretending to be a child, like has this sort of mask up and it has these sort of psychopathic tendencies. The vibe was kind of similar, and you even the storytelling is sort of similar, but I was saying like she reminds me of Elijah Wood from that movie a lot, but I also can relate to her being treated like when you're a kid, you're still absorbing and hearing everything. And like, I have plenty of examples of my own life where like, your parents are talking about you in front of you like you weren't there and don't understand what they're saying. Like you're too stupid to understand what they're talking about.
But
and there's a few parts in this movie.
12, like a lot by the time you're that
I think she's supposed to be like 8. I don't think she's supposed to be 12.
Really?
I mean, guess maybe a little older.
Oh.
Maybe like 10.
10? I think we can agree.
I'd give her 10.
I don't think she's 12. She's not in like middle school. She's very childish, but that also could be
elementary. I like that. Yeah.
That could also be, due to the fact that she is so socially inept. Like she hasn't developed any social skills, right? So she's still childish.
My parents said I didn't need to know other kids. Like that's not great.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I cast some. Like I was doing some casting back in Toronto, and I got to help cast a Girl Guides commercial, which is super cool. And they were like, "Oh, okay, we want like kids like 12. What was it? It's like 8 to 14." And then the like divide of
you lie about your age.
Yeah. And it was just like there is no way to tell. Like they're literally because you can have like a very tall 14-year like kids.
I thought you were implying that Becca was trying out for the Girl Guides commercial.
No,
like,
no.
Becca's like, I'm 12.
No, but it was so wacky, and there were some girls that were like, she is so cute, she's so great, but she's like 3 feet taller than every other girl. They're all the same age.
It's like, what's up? I'm 8 years old.
Yeah.
As a former tall kid, I was like, please cast her. She's amazing. And they were like, she's great.
No, she's already going
just
up to high school.
It's hard to tell with actresses. It's hard to tell with like actual,
I decided to double check here, and she is 8 years old.
Fuck me,
Nice.
really?
I was correct. Yeah.
But she's supposed to be, immature, like raised by assholey parents who kind of ignore her.
It's also like
really traumatized immediately.
The mom limited her screen time, which I think is actually
that doesn't mean good parenting, Kaylin. No, that's
to limit screen time.
If you're okay, hold on. If you're going to limit the screen time of a child, but you're also a shitty parent who's not taking care of them properly when they're off the screen, all you're doing is like removing something that they enjoy and not filling it with something that they do.
You have to.
I'm not saying she's great. I'm just saying that's a good thing to have limitations on.
Not necessarily. Half an hour of screen time a day.
That's also messed
That's
up.
crazy. That's.
There was a time where we didn't have any screen time. So you know
screen
what?
Not in my lifetime. In my lifetime, there's always been screens.
Not in specifically my lifetime. My parents plopped me down in front of the TV.
For some people,
they've
been born into this life. But prior to that, there was a time.
I'll tell you that the limited screen time that I received as a kid was more like I'm not allowed to watch certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's not screen time. That's
can you just let me finish what I'm saying? It's still a point of what you're saying. I'm trying to explain it in a way that you'll get it once I get to the point. I wasn't allowed to watch certain things, and it severely impacted my ability to have social interactions at school because I wasn't allowed to watch certain things that all of the other kids were allowed to watch. So I would go to school and we'd go out on the playground, and if it was a shitty day, you would sit around and talk about stuff that you watched, and everybody would be talking about The Simpsons. Did you watch it? It's a cliffhanger. Mr. Burns got shot. And I was like, who the fuck is Mr. Burns? And I wasn't allowed to watch these shows.
You know what my rebuttal to that is?
What?
It's every parent's rebuttal that kids say, hey, if your friend jumps off a bridge, would you jump off too?
No.
That's not, my parents just wouldn't let me watch it because they thought that Bart Simpson was a bad influence on me.
But I'm saying,
my dad used to fast forward through Itchy and Scratchy. Just not that.
If they're allowed to watch it, but it's a bad thing, so jump off.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Like, I understand the comparison, but what I'm saying is that is a bad parental move if literally every single one of your child's friends is allowed to watch something that will allow them to connect socially, and you're denying it from them. It's a way of socially crippling them, and it's not necessarily a good thing.
They kind of tackle it in the movie a little bit, so you see her being, Gemma later being like, yeah, I don't care, I don't do screen time, and she's kind of like, oh, this is nice, but it's like that's not good either.
That's not good.
Like her sister, it's kind of the same thing with I had AI, good and bad. It's
the opposite of Steve, where I was allowed to watch whatever I wanted, and that
I'm not saying that that's a good thing either, though.
No, I'm saying what I'm going to say though is that kind of crippled me in a different way. I saw too many things too young. I watched RoboCop. I've told this story on the podcast 1,000 times, but I watched RoboCop when I was 8, and it made me not able to watch any, even like hinting at there going to be gore later. Completely made it so I couldn't watch any horror, any action movies. Right?
Listen, Katie saw a kid get run over by a car when she was 8, and she turned out just fine.
On top of that, I watched Problem Child 2 around like shortly after that. And in that movie, those kids eat a bunch of chewing tobacco and puke all over themselves. No, wait, I'm thinking of. I watched The Sandlot.
That's The Sandlot.
I watched it, but in Problem Child 2,
they go on the roller coaster.
They go on the thing, and he turns it all the way up. And then I couldn't handle puke. So then I was afraid of watching things that could possibly have any form of gore, any form of puke. And then also earlier than that, I saw Look Who's Talking. And there's like a sex scene kind of thing at the beginning, and then it cuts to like the sperms and like the inside the lady.
Jason, are you going to tell us about every single movie you shouldn't have watched when you were a child?
Well, this comes to, I'm in my 20s, and finally like prestige TV starts happening, and The Walking Dead comes out, and I finally can start slowly chipping away at that like desensitization, and now I can handle whatever. But it's the opposite. Either like you're completely sheltered from everything, and that makes you a certain way, or you're allowed to do whatever you want, and that makes you a certain other way. That's my point.
I have a quick question, Jason.
Okay.
If you puke and you see your puke, does it make you puke more?
I'm fine. I'm good now. Puking is not a problem for me.
Good question.
Good question.
That's so funny.
So anyway, we learned the parents are bad, and like, as to Kaylin's point, like limited screen time is a good thing, but not necessarily. But as we've had a little small discussion here, that doesn't equal good parenting.
Here, speaking of parenting,
are any of y'all parents? I'm not a parent, so that was not an endorsement.
Oh, are any of us?
Oh,
I'm not.
Okay,
great.
Chad is asking, can I watch M3GAN with my 13-year-old? It's hard to find horror movies without necessary boobs.
Well, there's a 13-year-old.
There's no boobs.
It's a PG-13 movie.
It is PG-13.
So, yeah.
I don't think I'd watch this movie at age 13, but also 13-year-olds have been on the internet probably for 13
I think this movie, especially if you watch the theatrical version of this movie, it is completely fine for a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a 13-year-old who's scared of everything, then it might be scary to you. But this movie does such a good job of catering to the moment. When it comes to music and cinematography, when they want it to be creepy, it's creepy, but there are moments that are absolutely beautiful and nice and like whimsical.
It looked crazy in 4K also,
and
to say.
And it just feels nice at points. Like when M3GAN is first being introduced, they have this almost sort of 1960s whimsical music where it's like harps and synths and stuff. And it sounds, and even the little sort of laboratory room that's like full of toys and stuff feels very 1960s. The door opens and there's like a red wall behind her.
Retro futurism, I think.
Exactly.
I love retro futurism.
It almost feels like something out of the Batman animated series from the 90s, like where it's it just has this
harsh angles,
high tech
levity to it.
Rich kind of.
It's like new age plus old age, like.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's utopian sci-fi. That's like, here's what it could look like when shit goes right, and that's harder to write because that involves hope and that's
in the near future you can take your sky car to work while your wife stays home and produces you a lab-grown pig sausage. Like, oh god.
But watch Star Trek Next Generation. Like, it is so hopeful, it is so earnest, it's so aspirational.
Yeah.
And we are like, I really enjoyed this movie, but I listened to something that made me really think, just saying like, we consume a lot of dystopic future stuff, and that doesn't do a lot to actually reinforce like undoing and unpacking like detrimental ways we're living now and like aspiring for better and make the world a better place, blah blah blah. So it's like, you actually need, what it does is you get forced to read like Brave New World in 1984, and these kids are like, don't try anything because it could get so much worse.
Yeah.
Status quo is better than Ooh, spooky future,
it's
right?
It's hard to relate to utopian stuff too. Like we live in literally, like in the '80s, it was like it might be like that one day, but it's fine. And in the '90s, it's like it might be like that one day, but it's fine for now. And then like after 9/11, it started to really like we live in like almost like a pre-Skynet or like the sci-fi where like the corporations own everything. That kind of
that's the word future. Though. It's like it's not just sci-fi. It's this imminent sort of future. Like it's not the near future. It's not this fantastical. It's like very this close and breathing down your neck and really terrifying. And we know we're like shit's about to get fucking wild.
Basically,
so when are we gonna learn our lesson and stop? Because we're the ones. Like, I mean, we as
I don't know, when people start trusting scientists that vaccines are good and not trying to steal your memories or whatever,
I've heard a conspiracy sort of theory about how like the billionaires, the reason why they're just sucking everything out of the planet is because they're going to be fine. They've got all the money and all the resources. They can leave. And I was always like, that's ridiculous. Like, they're just going to they're going to go down to the bottom of the ocean and their little tin can's going to implode. We saw that happen.
Jason.
I wonder if that's what they were looking for.
Well,
they were looking for a quick death.
They were looking for their secret underwater
Titanic expeditions.
Yeah. So
there's a thing. Follow that live on TikTok. You know, you had to watch the whole progression of.
That was a very interesting week on TikTok. I will say, I agree with you about it. But the thing is like now it doesn't seem so far-fetched that the reason why the billionaires keep absorbing money and destroying the planet is because they're like, as long as we can use the humans, the lesser than humans as our batteries, much like the Matrix, instead of us being in pods, we're literally going out and like digging holes and moving boxes around. Right, we use up all the people.
I think I need to get us back on tracks here. This is going a little bit too much.
Anyway, Becca knows what I'm saying.
We all know billionaires.
That's connected to the sci-fi thing because the whole thing is that these androids are going to eventually become like manual labor. I think this was like the first plot point in the new Picard is like the androids, you know,
they start to treat them like slave labor, basically.
But in our timeline that we're living right now, I don't think that would be beneficial to the billionaires because that would make the peasants' lives easier, and I think they want the peasants to be used.
Well, the thing about Star Trek and real life is that Star Trek does try to eventually work towards the utopian society where people can do what they are passionate about and work because they want to work and not because they have to work, right? That's the beauty of TNG is you watch that show and like you were saying, Becca, it's like something that everybody who watches, you're meant to aspire to be that eventually. Humanity is meant to be this sort of hopeful future where it's free of sexism, racism, homophobia, and all of that. Like even in the first few episodes of TNG, you'll see a woman walk by wearing a skirted uniform, and then a man will walk by wearing a skirted uniform as well. And like the idea behind that is like, yeah, in the future people just wear whatever the fuck they want, and there's no like gender attached to it. It's like if you want to wear a scant Starfleet uniform, then yeah, if you want to wear some big boots, yeah, it's like go ahead, bro, you look good. And you know, as you were saying before, like movies before were just as crazy and post-apocalyptic and everything, but it was more fun and they were having fun in it. Whereas you fast forward to the 2010s and stuff, it's like any movie that's post-apocalyptic is gritty, gross, horrifying, and sexual assault and murder are just like part of everyday life, and it's like people are okay with it, and it's not like it's scary, it's not fun Mad Max style stuff. It's like gross and disgusting. Even like the old Mad Max movies compared to Fury Road that came out 8 years ago or whatever now, it has this sort of like
don't do that
different level of
years ago.
It's been a while, it's been a long time. But it has a different vibe in terms of the fun. Like you watch something like Thunderdome and it's goofy, weird fun, and sure it's got a layer of grime on it, but Fury Road has this like level of disgust that you are experiencing while you're watching it.
M3GAN, she's cute. Like she's beautiful. She's actually very like the movie is very like crisp and clean and campy, and I really enjoyed that. I'm like, yes, it's got that like pre-apocalyptic dark tech sci-fi vibe, and
even
it's terrifying.
Her clothes are like something out of those sort of like press doll clothing from like the 1940s and stuff, like paper dolls and stuff. No, I totally agree, and obviously that's by design, right? It's like we want her to be something that is easily you can become comfortable around it easily, but then just the slight movement of the mouth, like we were saying at the beginning, completely changes the tone of it, right?
Her style.
I think you said it, Becca. You said uncanny valley, which I just learned that term researching this movie for today's episode, where you want it to be like on the brink of realistic, but also robotic.
So a real problem with the uncanny valley that they've been working on is like eyes. And they don't even try with M3GAN because I think the eyes are the window of the soul, and she has no soul. So, like, I'm not going to get into it.
There's also like
souls, but we just watched. Me and Steve saw Indiana Jones last night, and they did some aging down technology, and it still has that. It's really good. It's some of the best I've seen. But there's some facial movements that the CGI does that.
I don't want to break the veil here, or pull the veil away, or shatter the black mirror, but.
Well,
the reason that the uncanny valley exists to us as human beings is that we are evolved to recognize when something is not real, because if it's fake or if it's dead, we're meant to be uncomfortable around it, because our biology is like, you don't want to mate with this thing because it might kill you. Like that's like what our biologically our brains are like. If this is not real, then we shouldn't interact with it.
Everything comes down to sex.
And also, like, the human face is the one thing we know like more and can read more accurately than anything else. Like, it's the first thing you see as like an infant. It's like the first thing you're like meant to focus on.
Yeah.
And I loved how little her face moved.
Yeah. Like,
even with the singing and the little eye, she was so expressive without doing much, which I think that's puppetry. Like, you can use animatronics. Like, you don't actually. I love that moment at the beginning. She really snarls her face, and you see what it looks like if she really puts, that she looks demented. But that wasn't necessarily the scariest part. It was the little
tiny eye movement, like when she's pretending to be off, and then she looks up at her when she looks away, and then looks back down.
It's the little turn of the head. It's like the one blink or no blink. Like, it's just like, that's not quite right.
And then towards the end of the movie, when she goes full Michael Myers, but is also twitching.
Can we call her full Chucky?
I thought but Chucky's really a really expressive animatronic. She goes full
He's
Michael
making that
Myers at one point.
Yeah.
She goes full Mike Myers at one point at the end, where she's just like you know what I mean?
Yeah, the end is great. I think everything after her breaking out of the laboratory is just like amazing, and it's like what you wanted the whole movie to be. I have a few things that I think would have maybe made the movie.
I think our well
enjoyable
segment is all going to be the same.
But I think for what it was there, it was really good. But I wanted to see a little bit more going on there. Anyway, we get introduced to our first technician, Brian Jordan Alvarez. We love our favorite TikToker.
Name. I've just recently discovered his previous YouTube work, and it's
his
so
YouTube work and his TikTok characters are things that I actual things I look forward to, because he uses
There's a point in this movie where I wished his character where he's like getting an internship. I'm going to look for my internship, and the company, they come in, they say they need me to do my science.
Yeah.
And
my wife Deborah, she is no one's meant to do.
No, not the wife. The wife is the other one with the weird tiny face.
Yeah,
like, my wife. This is my son. But he's got this like weird young character who's like just getting out of college, and he's like, I have to do my studies and then my science.
He's got
I have an internship.
Character too that's like a bodybuilder, and
he has a million of them.
He's got a new one with like, he kind of looks like Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah,
it's like fun also to find like YouTubers from, I don't know if they haven't been completely canceled by now, with just like its archive of footage to go back through, and like a little time capsule, and so many seasons.
He's been around since Vine, as I recall.
Love it.
I think he was a Viner.
He's been on like Friends and shit or something. Not Friends, but like a sitcom that was like of the era sort of thing. Like, he's been around for a while. I think he's just younger.
Usually IMDb people, I'm trying not to do it as I watch movies. I'm trying to stop spoiling myself.
We should tag him on this episode.
Sure.
What if we get him as a guest?
He's liked both of our comments before, so
he did.
Basically having a parasocial relationship with him.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that wishes that his character in this movie was one of his weird characters from like the
not just
like,
the
I was like, oh, it's him, and then he like just kind of played like
what's
aside.
up, man?
He's a normal guy,
I'm Gene or whatever the fuck his name is. I don't even remember what his name is.
Cole.
Yeah. He had some funny moments, but it wasn't like knowing who he is as an actor and what he is capable of comedically. He didn't really get to play around, but I think it's kind of fun and cool that they cast a lot of the tertiary and secondary characters in this movie because they're comedians, right? Like they wanted to make sure you understand, like, yeah, this is also a comedy. Yeah,
so funny.
Cocaine Bear was kind of like that too.
Yeah, but Cocaine Bear was made by all comedians, right? So they were just casting their friends and stuff. Whereas this
Allison
is like
Williams is really fucking funny, and I know a lot of people hate on her, but she is.
What? Who hates Allison Williams? What's the hate?
They don't hate Allison Williams. They hate her character Marnie in Girls, and I think she's the funniest. She's so good.
I mean, they also hate her character in Get Out.
She's so good at being absolutely awful, and yet
she's doing.
Exactly, and yet very charming and poised, and just I really like her.
She's from.
I will second that. She is awesome. She
has
that look about her. Like it's a bit of innocence, but also there's maybe something more behind the eyes or whatever. She has great eyes too.
Yeah,
she kind of looks like Danny, to be honest.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Hey, when's Danny gonna be on
totally.
the episode?
Yeah.
Danny doesn't want to be on the episode.
I spent the whole movie.
I want to see Danny. Would Danny come visit?
Yeah.
Come say hi.
I spent the whole movie going, "Who is this person?" And it's Get Out, where I know her from, which is fantastic.
Yeah, when she eats the Fruit Loops and
okay,
milk
so
separately.
I wonder if there's. I don't know if the scene where M3GAN is singing like the Titanium song.
Oh my god, yeah.
There's a total parallel. So you remember in the early season of Girls when Marnie is like sings Kanye West so awkwardly. It's like, let's get lost tonight. You could be my Black Kate Moss tonight. And it was, what the fuck is she doing? And it has an exact same, like that weird, like uncomfortable laughter. Like I started doing that and I was looking at these and people are like, she started singing Titanium. And I was like, what the fuck?
There's like,
I think that
there's 3 musical moments in this movie, right? And one of them is like a weird Disney moment, and it's so well done that I actually like teared up a little bit while I was watching it. And I was like, this is so nice. And then the Titanium one where it's like she's just doing it because she knows that she'll get an emotional response to placate Katie to get her to go to bed. Yes. But she's singing Titanium, which is like basically a song about being indestructible.
Yeah, that's what I picked up
from the alloy she is made of.
Yeah, true.
Reminding you she is a robot.
And then there's the point at the end where she's playing Toy Soldiers on the piano.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is also really good and like super duper. Yeah, like it's so poignant for what's happening there. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not saying this is the most amazing movie I've ever seen, obviously, but like there are moments in it where I'm like, this is the most amazing movie I've ever seen. While I'm watching it, I'm like, this movie's great. And then afterwards, I'm like, it's all right. But while I'm watching it, I'm like, this is perfect. This is so good.
I think they just knew, like, I don't know, delivered what it promised. You just like, you kind of like, I want to watch her fuck shit up. Like, oh no, I don't want to watch her kill the dog, but I kind of do want to watch her kill the dog.
She has a progression of killing too. She goes from dog to kid to like adults. I have a question for you though. If it wasn't for the memes about a year ago, do you think this movie would have been a bit of a moment, a horror moment in the horror zeitgeist? Because it might have just come and gone and nobody would have really known. But it's a well-made, good, like pretty good movie.
I think that horror movies in general now, and just a lot of movies, to be honest, like they rely on TikTok specifically, and you know the newer things that are coming out, but they have to be able to let you watch something on a screen that you're looking at, you know, vertically. And they have to be able to take those things into consideration when they're making a trailer, right? And that sucks.
Insidious,
for artistic integrity.
Insidious movie has kind of a weird thing they're doing for promotion, and they have the song from the movie has Patrick Wilson singing with the lead singer of Ghost on a Ghost track, the band Ghost, in this really weird, heartfelt...
He's a beautiful singer.
Apparently, it's a great singer.
He's also a beautiful man.
Opera. Oh my God, so beautiful.
He's the most famous non-celebrity I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like Patrick Wilson.
Also, he has a wild episode in Girls smack dab in the middle. Just watch, and it's a bottle episode, so just watch that one. It's fucking wacky.
He's also the Ocean Master in Aquaman, guys.
Yeah, he's got that weird hairstyle in Aquaman.
Yeah, he wears a mask that's almost fully animated, and also James Wan directed that. James Wan.
They used to just play Aquaman in our bar in the Nautilus room. So
did they?
They did. They used to just play Aquaman on a loop in the Nautilus room. So just like. It's perfect for the theme.
I guess, yeah. The Ocean Master. You have to dress as the Ocean Master to bring their chicken wings. Yeah.
Wait,
the chicken of the sea.
James Wan didn't direct this.
No, he wrote it.
He wrote it.
Yeah, he's also
the executive
producer.
It's a good,
James Wan also writes a lot of his own movies, so he's a pretty good, talented director. I think he also, one of his main draws as a director and writer is that he writes things that are broad enough and he films things in such a way that they are easily translatable to all areas of the planet Earth, where they're just like, we can easily just dub this, and because it's a lot of visual sort of, not, I don't want to say fluff, but style that is interesting to look at, you can easily just kind of displace it anywhere on the planet and people will still be interested in it. So it's very marketable. It's why you watch something like Aquaman and there's not a lot going on story wise, but there's so much happening visually.
It's very stylistic.
Yeah.
Transformers movies are the same, and but I also think that he's like, did you ever see oh God, what's it called? Maleficent. Sorry, yeah.
That's another one. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen it, but yeah, I've seen it. Like, I've seen enough.
It was the first.
You haven't seen it, man. That movie is fucking bananas.
But I've seen clips, and I know there's a whole like different backstory, and like TikTok shows you pieces of movies all the time. It's great.
It's true.
It's the first movie though in that
get my Coles notes.
That line of like villain-centric Disney movies, which is what I remember Maleficent being.
Sorry, Malignant. Not Maleficent.
Oh, Malignant. That's a completely different movie.
is a different thing. I'm talking about Malignant.
No, I haven't seen that, but I've been curious.
It's because I was trying to get the word malignant out, and then everybody started saying Maleficent.
Maleficent?
And I was like, no, Malignant. Malignant.
Well, then disregard everything we said for the last minute.
Yeah. Malignant is different. Also James Wan, and it is batshit crazy M3GAN style cuckoo bananas, but super gore and action and good. I don't even want to tell, if you haven't seen it, just watch it. But like, because if I was to start to describe it, you would start saying what, and I'd be like, all right, I gotta
an afternoon where I watch Malignant and Barbarian and just fucking lose my head.
It's a good double feature, I'll tell you right now. Kaylin, what do you got?
Who the fuck calls a snowplow a snow truck?
So I thought the same thing. I was like, what? We gotta wait here for one of the snow trucks to come. And then later she's like, I lost my parents in a snow truck accident. And I was like, what?
I thought it was a train.
I can understand her saying it because they said it.
Yeah.
But why the fuck did they say it?
Because her parents were
honestly, they probably shot it. Where did they shoot it? Somewhere warm.
Was it in the UK or something?
It might just be one of those things where like it's easily translated by AI, or that like if we say snow plow, the word won't translate properly, but if we just say snow car in English, it just like makes more sense and it'll be easily translated to everybody across the world.
Ooh, okay.
Because plow does not mean car. Like the plowing is what you're doing, but like the car, if you just say snow car, you're like car and there's snow.
That was a very sad scene actually, and I kind of like this. I don't know if it's like
the way it was framed though. You're just like waiting. You're like, okay, and like, we gotta wait this out. I'm like, there's gonna be something coming.
Yeah. It does that thing like yeah. But they do that thing like they're gonna die, but also like they let the kid kind of, I don't know. It was really sad. Like it was well done, and like just showing her. Like they don't explain what happened, just showing her picking her up. You figure out how they're related.
Right.
You figure out how in silence, just
show
watching
don't tell. Yeah.
And this kid just like absolutely her world rocked. Like it reminded me a bit of not The Seed, but like Hereditary, like not plot wise at all, but just that way it kind of like just out of nowhere,
lets you fill in
very
the blanks.
Emotional, and you're like, that was really sad. Actually, I wanted to be horrified, like scary, not no. Like, I burst into tears during Hereditary, and it like knocked the breath out of me. I was like, oh my god! Like,
I'm sorry to say, Becca, I watched Midsummer before Hereditary,
God.
It desensitized me to Hereditary. That like Steve had the correct emotional reactions to the movie. We've talked about this a lot. Hereditary I was still thinking about Midsummer, still fucked up by it. That I was like, nah, that's whatever.
So you're saying I need to watch Hereditary first and
watch
then
all of his movies in order.
I mean, it's still odd to me that you aren't able to have the appropriate emotional response to a completely different movie. But like, I understand if you had prepped yourself mentally for trauma. But
I think I watched them also too close together.
Do you like those kind of movies? Because I like
them better than gory horror movies. I like this psychological stuff. Like Black Mirror is my fucking favorite show, and I like the really messed up episodes that aren't like outright messed up. The thinkers get me.
Yeah.
I want to be trapped in a mind prison. That whole season about people getting stuck inside, inside the
little
that shit. That's my jam. Hook me up with more of that. I want to go watch some.
I did want to say one thing about the conversation in the car that for some reason sticks with me, and I don't know why, and I think it's just because I hate when people talk shit when other people aren't there. And it was when they're talking about the toy, and then it's like, well, why would she even get her this thing? And then the husband's like, well, she was thinking it's my niece's birthday and I just want to get her a toy. And it's like, she works for the toy company. She probably didn't even have to pay for shipping. And it's like, you're just shitting on your sister. But
in front of your kids.
Exactly. To me, I'm watching this from the kid's perspective. I'm like, if my mom was like talking shit about my aunt to me, I know that would make me then have this weird negative like affect to my aunt. I think
there's a bit of an unwritten, I think there's something cut out of this movie about how Gemma is way more of like a recluse nerd who like loves her toys.
I have a lot to
her
talk about that
figures
with, actually.
But which they touch on a little bit, and my theory is sort of that the parents are like these real normie sort of conservative right.
They're going on a ski trip. Like, it's the most normal ass thing you can do.
Homeschool their kids. I bet there was a whole part written about how like she's homeschooled so she doesn't learn about like the libs. You know what I mean?
The libs. Okay.
And the Gemma is very much like the opposite. She wants to build creations. She wants to be, go against the norms by being a collector nerd kind of thing as a woman, which is like.
Well, she's also got like certain.
The woman in STEM. Let her cook.
Exactly. 100%.
But she's also like concerned about these social ineptitudes that Katie might develop or not develop social skills. But then she demonstrates over and over again throughout the movie that she doesn't have them herself, right? Like she's not really capable of speaking to her coworkers in the way a normal human being would. She has all these toys that are still in the boxes that are on shelves, which is like not necessarily an abnormal thing. I've met plenty of people that do that.
I'm that person. Yeah. Me and Kaylin are like.
But you also have tons and tons of open toys all over your apartment as well.
That's true.
I think there was a bit of like she's very successul and she's single and she's lives alone.
5 Tinder notifications. 5
dating. She did not plan for kids. Her house is immaculate. Her toys are preserved in the box, and this also just like rocked her world. And like, M3GAN is kind of her like perfect vision of like a perfect child, and then here comes like a real one, and she's like, well, I don't fucking know.
I also like
I can't program her. I can't like.
Kind of like Sandy Bullock in The Net. We did The Net a couple weeks ago, and Sandra Bullock is comically hot for how nerdy she is. She never even puts a pair of glasses on in the whole movie. And Gemma is sort of like that too. Like she's a model.
So I wanted to say that
she wears sweatshirts.
Yeah,
she's a sweatshirt. That means you're a freaking nerd. You don't
$400 sweatshirt.
Yeah,
she goes in the shower. She only washes her hair, nothing else.
What the fuck?
I don't know. She just doesn't want to waste time.
She definitely does not watch her knees. I'll tell you that much.
Who the fuck hacks open their collector's toy like that?
It's because
she was pissed.
She was pissed off.
She was mad.
So I think that was
malicious
to be like,
compliance.
That's just visual, sort of like it's not necessarily foreshadowing, but it's also like showing that the house is not necessarily safe for a child. She's got an X-Acto knife like within grabbing distance of a child. Like I think there was like multiple layers working there, but it brings me to my first thing of like, I noticed that a lot of the times in the movie, Gemma does not hand things to people. She tosses them to people like constantly over and over again. And I feel like that was once again just trying to like visually confirm to us that she has this disconnect from other people, where she's like, there's never a moment of somebody even like later they're having toast at the table or whatever, which is like, who the fuck just eats buttered toast in the middle of the day? I don't know, but apparently she does. And when she gives her the iPad, she doesn't, toss her. She like slides it across the table. Yeah. And I just noticed that like the only times that she's physically touching something that somebody else is touching is when she's trying to wrench it away from them, or like it's violent in its own right.
I like that.
I'm not sure what the significance is, other than to make it to show us that she's prickly, and she doesn't have the social skills that she's scared that Katie isn't going to develop either.
She built that social ineptitude / like prickliness into her AI program, and that's why M3GAN so easily, like, I do get that M3GAN's like initiative is to just be a guardian for the person that she's
paired to, but Gemma wrote that program, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you also see, so the first time we meet the neighbor is not being unpleasant.
No,
she's being apologetic.
That character in any other movie would have been like the comic relief, like fun, like grandma, or the fun.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that she's being
already
sort
got
of like
a fight going.
Yeah, but she's just being kind of aloof and weird, being like, oh, sorry, and she's like apologizing for the thing that the main character is complaining about. But she's never doing anything that you would consider to be Karen behavior.
No. Until
later on, when she calls the cops, and I'm like, the neighbor seems quite normal and pleasant until she isn't, and the reason she isn't is because Gemma is the one who's being unpleasant.
A nitpick from that little sequence is the police officer was totally unbelievable as a police officer. Like, his costume sucked, his demeanor, he didn't shoot anybody in the back.
What about the detective who's chewing the gum and he's like, I shouldn't laugh about
The detective was great. The detective was a good charecter, but the actual police officer...
like, yeah, we found this kid's ear ripped off like a mile away.
My favorite was the camp counselor, and she looks like, Jesus Christ, what was that?
Yes,
it's like,
that's something I wanted
reaction.
to bring up.
Yeah.
When they, who's this little, and it's like,
like, because like every time M3GAN blinks or moves her eyes, there's always like some creepy like no, like a C3PO.
The sound design, it was very good. It was just
servos going on.
The sound design in this movie was on point the entire time.
Yeah.
Having made a sci-fi audio drama featuring dozens of little robots, I was on it with a bunch of other actor folks and writers a couple of years back, and we like found a guy who could sound design it, and we're just like, okay, let's go through every little.
He raises his eyebrow.
Yeah.
He winks.
Yo, if she's so advanced, why can I hear all her mechanical movements?
I mean, she's advanced. She's still a robot, and also, it would be way less interesting if you couldn't
like
hear them.
I know.
Every space movie, we can hear them talking in space. It's like it's a movie thing.
Explosions in space.
Becca, I just want to ask Becca. We kind of glossed over it earlier, but you brought up we're well into the movie now, but you have some experience with puppetry.
I do.
How close to a puppet like what they use in M3GAN have you had experience with? Like, there's various iterations of M3GAN in this. There's literally like a kid wearing...
There's basically 3.
Yeah,
there's
that's
a kid wearing a hat and
like,
gloves. There's like an actual doll, CGI. And then there's like the...
There are animatronics. There's some that's... So even I haven't done puppetry in a hot second, but I did get to train with some very amazing puppeteers. So I'm not like tooting my own horn, but I've been like around some like people that do it full time, and like for CBC Kids and Fraggle Rock and just like crazy shit.
Oh man, Fraggle Rock?
Yeah, Fraggle Rock.
Fraggle Rock. They had a new one, yeah. And we've also, so I haven't done it in a long time, but I've also like, I fucking love it. It's so fun. It's so ridiculous. I got like a crash course when I did this community theater show 10 years ago and got to learn with this guy, Mike Peterson, who was in Labyrinth and just like crazy shit. and I just got really like a lot of respect for the art form. It's so weird. It's so underappreciated. Yeah. So the animatronics in M3GAN, even if you're just using like that's puppetry, they probably would hire like depending on how they organize it, 'cause you can rig it up any way you want. But on Fraggle Rock, let's say, they have a puppeteer on the eyeballs and on the mouth. So that's this whole separate thing that's synchronized with like a full body costume with monitors inside the costume while you're doing choreography, and you are two people puppeteering one, So it's kind of like, yes, it's just someone pressing a button to make eyes go back and forth, but it's very particular, and it was really, really well done. And it's like the little quirks of like facial muscles, eyebrows. Like she doesn't have like the big kind of marionette, like, you can't be, it's not like a puppet. So that's why I think it doesn't almost look like a puppet. Like half the time it's a little kid in a mask, but she actually did a very, very good job as well with her, like,
there were points where
the movement, like I think she's obviously a dancer. They had some.
She is a dancer. I actually looked up from
all fours was so horrifying.
Yeah, that part is also a testament to the sound design in the movie, because when she starts running, they play this very sort of muted and I think pitched up horse trot. Like it sounds like she's like running like a horse.
Spooky.
And it's so good. Like, but it's also funny. Like when you recognize it, you're like, that's a horse sound, and she's not a horse, but it gives her weight too, right? Like it makes you realize that she's like made of metal.
And sound is part of like the puppetry as well. Like it's these little pieces that can bring it to life. Like if you ever see, excuse me, there is a company that's been doing like Warhorse, the musical or the stage show forever. And it's full on, you can see the people operating the rig and they're making horse noises themselves and the breath, and it's 3 people like operating or puppeteering one thing. So it's just with M3GAN, like you see, it's the actor, it's the animatronics, it's the like electrician, it's maybe someone actually with their hand in there like twisting the head, it's the little girl. Like I think you would call that like mask work if you want to be all hoity-toity about it, like the way you can like move your head and like wear it.
I'm a masketeer.
I do the masks.
Can you tell I'm like an actor nerd and went to theaters going, I love this shit, it's so fun. It's just all like expression.
I do really hope that they make another one of these.
Me too.
I think they are. I feel like I actually, in my Googling, I saw that there was someone potentially cast as like adult M3GAN, which makes no sense to me.
They need to call it M3GAN 2.0, obviously, because of the naming convention.
The way it ends definitely opens up for a sequel. Also, the fact that Kurt, the assistant, was stealing company information, but we don't really get any. That almost kind of
that was a bit of a red herring.
Yeah, like a laser not like a.
Yeah, the LC or whatever. That's like opened up interpretation, but obviously it's meant to be ominous, and the movie ends right there. Right? If they wanted to do like a post credits Marvel style, they could, where like, they'd have the decommissioned body, like, and it's just like
its eyes just open. Yeah. Thank you for shedding some light on that, Becca. We did last year in June. We had a month called June Henson, which you would have. I'm
going to go back and listen to a bunch of episodes, and I could potentially, I don't know, I have a puppeteer friend who I've also done podcasts with, so maybe they'd be interested.
That'd be great.
And did some student films together to rig up some wacky homemade puppets.
We ran out of John Henson movies.
John
Henson, his brother. We ran out of Jim Henson movies pretty quick because he was a master. He was a genius, but he didn't make himself. He didn't make a lot of movies. His company did.
He's the classic example of like he burned candles at both ends, and unfortunately he wasn't able to. He also took a long time with his projects, right? Like
movies that took a long
time
to make. Yeah, he got
Jim
cancer.
Henson. Oh yeah,
he
died. I thought you said John Henson.
John Henson was. This was Jason saying the wrong name.
Yeah, I just misspoke.
But I believe his daughter is now in charge of the Henson Company, and she made that Dark Crystal show and stuff, and that was pretty good.
I bring it up
is it still Frank Oz doing?
He's still around.
He's around.
Is he doing Baby Yoda?
No, Baby Yoda doesn't talk yet.
Yeah, Baby
But
Yoda
he's a
just
puppet too. I
makes
think a
murmurs.
lot of times it's kind of the same thing. It like with M3GAN, like you do the wide shots, you digitalize, or maybe you can have like, I mean, something on a stick. He's supposed to be so little, but
I
like
made a
when it's an actual
prediction
puppet,
for
they're
this
so
last
precious.
season. I made a prediction about Grogu, and I was like, he's going to talk this season, and he didn't talk directly. But as spoilers, they put him in an IG unit, and he had yes and no buttons. So my prophecy did kind of come true, but it was the best way to
Jason's prophecy.
See, I still technically have never actually seen it, but I've seen a lot of it. Do you know what I mean?
You gotta watch The Mandalorian. Even if you've never seen the Star Wars movie, Mandalorian.
I've heard interviews with Pedro Pascal, and he talks about how the puppeteers are so good with this puppet that
they're all in love with it.
He was like taking his helmet off for that one dramatic sequence at the end of season 2, and the puppet was doing such a good job that he was like actually getting upset at the puppeteers. Yeah. He's like, guys, this is my only moment to take my helmet off the whole season, like, and you're upstaging me with this robot.
He's doing mask work and the whole thing, and he's that's probably what you would call it, like mask work, if he's having to wear a whole Mandalorian helmet and yet express so much with
it's almost
tiny movements,
borderline like mime, right? Like
it all kind of bleeds into each other. It's so fun and silly.
And then you find out he's like, in the later seasons I'm in that suit like 65% of the time.
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't make me mad though. People get mad about it, and I'm like, why would you care?
It's
he's also having to make other shit.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal is
I'm sure they had multiple M3GANs. They must have had like a dancer one, a contortionist one, a adult one to work like after hours, and a CGI one.
3 M3GANs. There's the physical M3GAN, which was the dancer from New Zealand, I believe. She did that when she's kind of hunting the bully kid. Man, that kid, Brendan.
What a little fuckhead!
What a great actor.
Yeah.
Fuck off, Karen, or whatever he says to his mom.
Fuck off,
Holly.
Holly, yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure he was like British or something, right?
Like that was all her.
And then the mom, you can hear her prattling on, giving her all the parenting advice. It's like, so here's what you have to do. You got to cut the screen time. You got to take away sugar. You got to and she's like.
But then she's also like later being like, but they also say that problematic behaviors are a sign of high intelligence. So it makes sense that you're like, you get it. Your kid is a genius.
Bad behavior means you're a genius. I was wondering about the CGI element, Kaylin. Was M3GAN's face always touched up with CGI in this movie? Because it's so weird.
Sometimes it was.
I can't look away from M3GAN's face when she's on screen.
When it looks like kind of fatter, then that's part of my even better. But there's moments where it's the actor wearing a prosthetic and then they CGI it, and then there's moments where it's actually just a close up of the animatronic.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, when it's wider because it's wrapped around someone's face, right? Like it's the skin.
Yeah,
you can tell, but you know what? It's not distracting. There's no point in the movie where I'm like, this is ruining the vibe.
It's enjoyable, and it kind of, because it's all these different elements like all coming together, like to create one puppet that was actually super. Like everyone, like, cause I'm such a nerd, I'm like, oh, that's a mask. That's probably a puppet. That's like probably an animatronic. But it's like it's one thing, and it was very cohesive and scary and beautiful. Like you're saying, every time she's on screen, you're just like.
It is mesmerizing. There's like the moment where she's first introduced to Katie it's magical, man. Like when she gets up and she's like, do you want to draw with me? And then she like walks over, and the way she does the movements, it must be a combination of like visual effects. It's not like Peter Seller from RoboCop where he's like, it's like she walks over and she, like,
and locking.
She turns and it is like almost popping and locking is what it almost is, right? Where like her shoulders just stop and are rigid,
static,
and she's like making these very deliberate movements, and it's so off-putting, but at the same time, that whole opening moment is like beautiful, right? Where she draws the picture and it goes from invisible to
it's the same with the singing. It's like, it's beautiful. You're singing it into my face, like 2 inches away. Like it's kind of unnerving,
but it's great.
But it's great, and you're singing wonderfully.
And I wonder, like, when she's singing like that, is she just singing, or is the music that's playing, like the score that's playing in the movie, is that also like being projected from her? Like, is she creating? So. Yeah, like
full orchestration. Yeah, she can do anything.
Yeah, did you guys get a bit of a Sam Raimi vibe at times from this movie?
A little bit, and I almost there are points where I wish that they amped it up even more, like the snap zooms and stuff.
Yeah,
like
the snap zooms.
Like I would have
there's like
loved
a
some of
montage
those.
where they're putting her together, and it was like people putting.
Oh, that
things on
montage is
tables,
fucking great, man.
And it reminded me of Evil Dead. And it reminded me of Spider-Man. Like there's a lot of that.
But it also has Allison Williams, like she's basically writing the script that she's going to give to her boss to say to the shareholders, like while it's happening, so it feels like a commercial.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so well done. And then there's like the moment where she's like, you should really use a coaster, Katie. And it's like, why though? And it's like, because it could do wood damage to the table. And it's like, well, why is the water on the outside of the glass? And she's like, well, it has to do with temperature. And then she's like, wow, that's crazy. And she's like, I know, right? And like, it just feels like such a good advertisement for the doll. And like, you know, I found myself like giggling during those moments, because I was like, this is so well done. And it's rare that you kind of go through something that you expect to just be like a run-of-the-mill horror thriller or something, and then you find these little moments that you didn't expect to have an advertisement for the doll in the middle of the movie while you're watching the movie, but the advertisement is the characters in the movie selling it to you. And
even the very first commercial, I was like, I'm gonna love this movie. I think this is it opened with the perpetual pet, or the like horror Furby.
Oh my god! I think one of the funniest parts
died before you get a pet.
Yeah, now it's a pet that can outlive you. Yeah. But like, and that almost feels like what's his name? The director of RoboCop, Paul Verhoeven. Like that had Verhoeven vibes to it. You know, like I buy that for $1, or like the Starship Troopers. Like, I'm doing my part. Are you? And like,
I don't know a lot about
this
director, but he did have that sort of. He was clear, like Paul W.S. Anderson style, like clearly inspired by, like for Event Horizon, clearly inspired by a whole bunch of different movies in this genre or adjacent genres. And it really comes out on screen when he's using these little references and these little points. Like it's a really good way to tell stories, I think, in horror, is just take tropes from the greats. You know, because either you're going to recognize it and love it, or you're not going to know it. You're not going to have any connection to it and love it. You know,
either way you're going to love.
Either way you're going to love it. Which it sounds like an ad from a movie like this. Either way, you're going to love it. Host with the most. We got dead air. What's happening?
Oh,
hey, did any of you guys?
Sorry, I thought you were still going.
I was staring at Megan's face.
Yeah, I was looking up Gina Davis.
Speaking of Megan's face, did any of you think she kind of looked like Elizabeth Olsen?
She,
a little bit. She's got Instagram face.
She has an Olsen face. Yeah,
she looks like somebody I can't put my finger on. And now that you say,
they probably went through and like just did tests on like how many people can we meld together to like
a little bit Scarlett Johansson in there.
Maybe. I mean, she feels like a lot of different things.
A little bit
like,
Alita Battle Angel. Alita.
She's got that Battle Angel feel.
She got that Battle Angel face.
Anyway, I was looking at
one of the
boys.
90s Barbies. Like she's got that like perfect little. I'm so excited for the Barbie movie.
Me too. I'm gonna go do a double feature next weekend.
And I'm trying not to watch. Like I want to spoil myself, but I want to just let it hit me.
There was a quick side tangent.
Whoa.
Before we saw Indy last night, I saw my first glimpse of Barbie outside the Barbie world, and I was like, oh man. So I'm trying.
Oh man good or oh man bad?
No, and I got another actual spoiler about an actor playing a character in the movie, which I won't spoil here, but I actually care about the Barbie movie.
Oh, weird. I don't care about the Barbie movie, but I am excited that it's coming out, where I'm like, this is very nice that this is happening, and I'm glad that so many people are excited for it, but I don't really care if I see it or not. That's not to say I'm not going to see it, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it.
When it's on Netflix, I'll watch it.
It's such a weird thing to me where I'm like, this is so strange that we've reached a point in time now where there is just a Barbie movie.
But we're this far into the future, and there's never been a Barbie movie, like a legit live action.
I find that pretty.
It's true. They made a Flintstones movie.
Start learning about the history of Barbie. It is fucking fascinating on TikTok. Okay, we're gonna get so off. Well, Megan is similar to Barbie. So she literally looks like one of the Skipper dolls I think I used to have. But yeah, sorry, I was on TikTok and they were going through like the history of Barbie's dream house and like how it kind of reflected like the decades, and it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of history there that you could kind of, it's a lot deeper than you think, is what I'm trying to say, Steven. If you want to give the Barbie.
No, listen, I'm not saying, I just, I was never into Barbie as a kid, but like even my sister wasn't into Barbie, so it hasn't been a part of my life. Yeah. My friend Durak, his older sister, babysat us a lot as kids, and she had like a million Barbies, so we would do like Barbie games when we were kids, like when she was babysitting us, and I'd be like, what do you mean, Barbie? And I'd be like some kid or whatever, or Ken, I mean to say. And that was my experience. It was just like, they're weird, and I didn't like the way they felt, like the way when they would like when you'd move the arms and the legs, and it was like the weird rubbery like texture of the, I didn't like it. I don't like it at all.
Texture's big for,
and there was some that had joints.
You gotta like,
you could move the joints, and when you would move it, you could hear the cracking, and it sounded like bones cracking underneath, and they made me uncomfortable.
Here's the thing for you. I played with a lot of wrestling action figures growing up, and there was this series of figures that had bone crunching action.
Wait a minute, Jason, are you telling me that somebody who has done
I'm
voice over intros for wrestling companies.
I love that.
But these wrestling figures, you cracked their arm like this, and it was like, it had a little mechanism in the arm and the leg.
That was like the Barbie ones too. I'm pretty sure they were probably made by the same.
They had
Hasbro or whatever.
No, those are Mattel. Mattel now makes wrestling, like WWE figures. Back then, it was a company called Jax, and they were trying to be on the cutting edge by putting this little mechanism in the knees and arms that just went when you open them, when you went like that,
like a snap bracelet.
Kind of.
Oh right,
snap bracelet technology.
That is the noise that it kind of made. Yeah,
it totally does. I'm just remembering that my friend growing up had a my size Barbie, which is it's M3GAN. That's proto M3GAN is my size Barbie.
My grandmother babysat a girl who had the full size fucking 4'5".
She's 4 feet tall. Yeah. She's supposed to. You can share her clothes. She's your best friend. And my friend down the street had one, and I was so obsessed with it. And her dad worked in film and TV as a special effects and lighting guy. And so every year on Halloween, he would horrifically murder my size Barbie and leave her out for the kids in the neighborhood to see.
Ring. That's the power wheels of action figures, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't know why my face that whole time was like,
it was so disturbing. It's very, maybe that's why M3GAN is so cathartic for me. I was like, yeah, get your revenge, because it really disturbed me as a child. She was in an open casket with a bullet hole in her head one year, and I'm like,
an open casket
with a bullet hole.
That would never happen in reality.
Like modeling clay, like with special like movie makeup. Very accurate wound.
He got his movie pals in and be like, I want you to make this child doll that I have for my daughter look like a corpse.
I'm going to give all of her friends fucking nightmares in the whole neighborhood.
Oh,
and I won't be able to watch horror movies ever again. And I will just be like, you growing up, Jason. It's like, no, I can't see that. It won't happen.
There's a gag in like The Office or whatever where Angela is like, I find the clothing at Gap Kids to be a little bit too flashy, so I have to buy all my clothes at the American Girl doll store.
Well, that's something I wanted to bring up.
From their colonial line.
Their colonial line. Yeah. The clothing in this movie, I think, is based off of American Girl doll attire, right? Like that's kind of the vibe.
I mean,
it
like, sort of looks like
funeral attire when
Parisian. It looks like kind of.
Well, like I was saying, it looks like that sort of like the 1950s sort of like paper dolls, or like, the people like they're wearing sort of like suit dresses, like a dress suit, like it's a suit but it's a dress kind of thing. It's like out of time almost,
Yeah.
And it's almost like it looks futuristic in this movie because they got stylists to be like, how can we take this look and update it to be modern so that it's not too strange? But she definitely doesn't look like a little girl you would see walking around, right? She's wearing weird ass clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one thing that I wanted to bring up, remember when they're like putting her together during the montage and they're looking at the wigs, and Brian Jordan Alvarez is like, I think we need to revisit this one, guys, and it's the blonde wig, and they're like, no, absolutely not, and then it just cuts immediately to her wearing that wig.
No. He offered the dirty blonde. They went with the strawberry blonde. Completely different.
I was going to ask you guys about the unrated
Kaylin was paying
version.
more attention than me.
In the unrated version, did they sexualize the doll at all? Because I thought that Brendan or whatever, I thought that got a little bit too close to some.
He was giving
stuff.
off some bad vibes.
Yeah, that got a little too close to some stuff I really didn't want to see in this movie.
When he knocked her to the ground, and I was like,
and he
whoa.
took her shoe off. I was like, oh, we're not going here, are we? And
I was like, this kid isn't old enough to know how to.
I'm really glad they didn't do that
her
with this movie. However,
it's also a doll, right?
So when this thing went to market, if this was done by another director who didn't have who wasn't making this for particular teen audience, if this was hard R for adults, there was going to be a weirdo who was very essay about these.
I don't know, man. I think that the movie's vibe is not that. So if they were to put that in
this movie,
that's what I'm so sick of that as a plot point, and it was really refreshing to not have that as a
not have to go through that oh, I don't want to.
I think
or the same with Katie, a doll trying to protect her. You could think, oh, what does she need to protect her from? I'm very sick of rape as a just plot point that comes up. It's just
an easy
all
thing,
the
right?
Time.
It's an easy thing to do because it automatically disgusts the audience, which is how do we get them to hate this thing? Okay, well, we'll do that. And it's that's the easiest way to do it. How can we get around it? And I think that all they really needed to do was have him say, fuck off, Holly. And we're immediately okay, perfect.
It was so much better.
I will say.
We're ready to watch her die.
Stab her with the chestnut.
Yeah.
I will say, turning if the sequel happens and they do an adult version and they turn her face, they turn her into a good, and she starts killing rapists, that would be cool. A
promising young woman meets.
Yeah.
I think that was a great movie too. I think that the concept of this character is a little bit more interesting than that.
Agreed.
I might have just told maybe I just made that up in my head, but I swear I saw something that had.
But I think it did well enough that
my point is I'm glad they didn't go down that road. And I only thought of that because
the budget for this movie is shockingly low.
Wow.
Holy shit. This movie only cost $12 million.
I mean, adjusted for inflation.
There are commercials that cost that much.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation, that's Halloween 1 level.
Adjusted for inflation, it was last year.
Adjusted for.
Kaylin, you need to listen to the entire sentence before you start talking.
I was talking about the original Halloween movie was made for a couple $100,000 and returned on investment.
Adjusted for inflation, it came out last month. What do you mean?
Yeah, I think,
but it made $180.7 million. So
that's good.
I think that they're going to get a sequel.
Yeah, we're going to get a bad sequel. We're going to get 5 of these.
No, we're going to get a good sequel.
Sometimes when I enjoy a movie, I often don't want them to make a sequel. I'm
I don't either, but I think that M3GAN was such a compelling and interesting
and it's horror.
Weird character that I would like to see more of her.
It's horror. They're gonna suck every fucking dime out of it. We're gonna get M3GAN 6, M3GAN Island.
We're gonna get
Island.
We're
some
gonna
island of M3GAN.
Upside down 3, right side up 3, 6, 4,
pointy 4.
2.
Can't be the other 4. It has to be the pointy 4, and then a 2 on its side.
All right, Kaylin, you need to scan that and make that the poster for this episode. I wanted to comment on the voice because we haven't really talked about it, but I think it is.
Ooh, Jenna Davis.
I can do it too now.
Yeah, Jenna Davis.
Sorry, I just found this button.
It's perfect, man. And they do the I don't know if you guys have played the Portal video games, but they do the GLaDOS style sort of glitching and it's not necessarily auto tune, but it has and they save it for when it's important. They don't have her do it all the time. They do it a little bit at the beginning just to show you that it does happen, but anytime she's being deceptive, it has this this kind robotic. Of sort of robotic.
Must be a very specific filter that I don't know the name of, but it has such a it's GLaDOS.
I know how to achieve
the filter for sure.
Yeah. I know how to achieve that effect in audio editing, but I don't know how to achieve it in such a segmented and perfect way to be I am obsessed with it.
Scene with the dog when.
Dewey, come here, boy.
And there's me going, is the dog gonna die? Is the dog gonna die? The dog's gonna die. Oh,
I mean, that dog was kind of a shit dog.
It's the only instance of a dog dying in a movie where it was telegraphed so hard that I didn't care.
There was never a moment where the dog seemed like a nice dog. I was there are some shit dogs out there, guys.
Yeah.
They did the same thing when you hear the dog like whimpering, and then it kind of like
exactly.
Kind of
it's when she's
Becca, when did you get to San Francisco? That's crazy.
I found a button.
It teleported me there.
Where I used to live, the green screen effect just like pixelated and just kind of fucked up my face. With this backdrop.
But now I'm in San Francisco.
I just wanted to.
I just wanted to continue with the voice thing for a second. I noticed that every time she was being overtly deceptive is when that effect would come in. So when she's pretending to be the dog or when she's pretending to be somebody else on the phone, like it would glitch like that. And it almost felt like what they were doing was that she wasn't able to lie perfectly. Like she was able to be deceptive but not lie. And as soon as she was lying, that sort of weird distortion would happen. And I thought that was a really cool and interesting idea. And then it also made it more threatening.
Yeah.
For her character.
I will watch for that on rewatch because.
Yeah, this was the second time I watched the movie as well, so I was picking up on a little bit more than I did the first time. But
Steven, I have a question for you because I think you have an ear for this. When she's luring the neighbor into the shed or whatever it is, and she rises up out of the shadows.
Yeah,
she's got this. So the first, like when I first heard it, I thought Predator, then I thought Aliens, and then I thought the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. I feel like one of those was the soundbite used, but maybe you could answer it better.
What when she's standing up tall?
Yeah, when she's in the garage or whatever, or a shed or something like that, and the neighbor thinks it's Dewey like whimpering or whatever, and then Megan appears out of the shadows, and there's a snarling like Predator, not the movie Predator, but predatory snarling type sound.
I did notice that sound, and it didn't really it didn't connect any of those to me as an obvious sort of connection, but it could be that they took those sounds and they tried to imitate them in their own way, right? Like because she's trying to scare her, right? So she's trying to like imitate a predator. So it's possible they just like made their own sound effect while listening to those, being like, what are the three most scary sound effects that we know of? It's like the raptor noises, the predator noise, the alien noise. So let's try and make something like that. Like
slow, like she's pretending to be an animal, and then it's like, it's my dog, it's a dog, it's a wolf, it's a monster, it's Megan.
I think I do think like one of my favorite lines in the whole movie though is she's like, "Where's my dog?" And she's like, "Approximately 34 miles east and 5 feet down."
Yeah. I like as soon as she started getting like sassy. Like,
and well, the immediate line after that is, "What are you?" And she's like, "I'm trying to figure that out myself."
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, she's learning, and she's secretly cool. Like she's secretly smart and cool. So the unrated version, that was like one of the first instances that I was like, okay, other than the swearing, this is different. And it's the power washer in the regular version.
Oh yeah.
It's just like the lady like and then it cuts to the side and there's just blood. But in this, you see like her face is getting like peeled off and stuff.
Really? Okay, I'm glad I watched the
It's not even that bad though. Like I thought it was going to be like her skeleton, but it was just like her cheek
like
getting
the nail in
off.
her arm. It was probably a lot like that effect, but just her face because they're similar.
No, the nail in the arm was way more gruesome to me than the peeling because it was quite clearly CGI, like peeling.
No, but what I mean is there's sort of like parallel injuries, like the nail in the arm and it being like kind of pulled was sort of a parallel of her face getting. And I wanted to see.
No, but I know. But what I'm saying is that the nail in the arm was more gruesome to me because you can imagine that. You can imagine what that feels like, and you can see the practical nail moving. But then when it's just CGI skin getting peeled off, you're kind of like, oh.
Sometimes though, the hyper stylized stuff really sticks with me in like a different way and disturbs me on a level I like wasn't anticipating. And then sometimes the hyper real, like it really depends on my mood
and
the movie.
What it is,
I remember like Reservoir Dogs, like they pan away, he cuts the ear off, and then you see like the aftermath. But that scared me so.
I love that ear being yanked though. So good, because like that's not how an ear works.
No.
Like no one's ear is made of chewing gum.
So long.
It was a little too long.
Very 80s.
But it's like
80s.
comical, right? Like that's like like Jurassic Park, the Luke getting pulled and stuff. And it's like it's not real, but it's funny. And also that kid was so shit that we were enjoying him being in pain, right? We're like, fuck this guy.
It's terrible.
So I have a question.
Obviously, he's not going to heaven.
I asked. No, he's nowhere. I asked Steve this. He didn't really have an answer for it. Kaylin, when I thought the most ridiculous thing in the movie was when Ronnie Chang gets stabbed from behind with the paper cutter.
The reason I didn't answer this to you is because I wasn't sure if you had finished the movie yet.
Okay, well, when he pulls the blade out, only half the blade has blood on it, and I was wondering if it had
There's so much more blood in that.
Way
scene.
more bloodier.
Okay.
Way more bloodier.
That's what I wanted to know.
It really just kind of like went through his shirt and then popped out, and I was like, that wasn't so bad. But
in the movie, when she stabs, the elevator explodes with blood, and the other guy is covered in blood the whole time. Like,
Kurt,
because when she gets down to the launch party, and then like, wow, okay, I didn't even see all that blood splatter because they don't actually see it happen.
He's like dripping with blood, and she like that entire sequence where she's like, "No, I didn't kill anybody. You killed him because you did all this shit." He's like literally dripping with blood.
So they filmed two versions.
They filmed it twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, did they, or is it just? I think that blood is CGI.
Nope. They filmed it twice. They probably did a reshoot to bring the rating down because they probably wanted the rating right. The movie would not have made 100.
Are you sure they didn't just touch it up though? Like,
I am 100% sure that was not
the
CGI
angles,
blood.
the expressions, everything was different.
I don't know. I would have to watch them side by side, but like
it was quite tame for a.
It was super tame.
I'm like, oh, this looks fun. I want to watch it, but my husband would not watch.
My whole point is that like when she pulls the blade out of him, half of it's like an action figure blade that just has like movie blood on one side. If you stab somebody through the back of their chest, that it's going to be a machete covered in blood. You know what I mean? And that's what I thought was ridiculous.
The blade is covered in blood. He is covered in blood. The elevator is covered in blood. And then it doesn't cut away. I remember specifically when she goes to kill him, it cuts away. In this, she cuts his throat, and his throat is like.
Oh man, I watched the wrong version.
Yeah, so the PG-13 was fine as far as like PG-13 is concerned, but unrated is better.
Okay,
and it's clearly it's a practical, like it's a blood
like
spurt.
A blood
it's
spurt.
A real cool. Tarantino style blood spurt.
Also, you guys Pornhubbing over there, or like what? Again?
Yeah.
Again? I forgot that that's a line in the movie, and I was so confused for a second.
I like that it was again, though. It's not like, what are you doing?
He already got caught once.
I fully expected Kurt to be a bigger deal in this movie because of that line alone. Like,
I also thought that he was going to be
stealing schematics. and stuff.
Like it would be a plot point or something, right? Like there would be a scene where he goes in and he tries to like put a USB key into her head or something to like take her data that she's got stored in her mind, and then she would kill him or something. But
so as far as like the unrated version goes, did Cole's death happen any differently? Because for some reason I remember the trailer, his death looked different.
In the unrated version, he doesn't die.
Well, he doesn't die in the he dies in the R version.
Cole again? Why am I forgetting?
No, he doesn't die. He shows up at the end.
Cole and Tess. You know about Cole and Tess?
Well, the explosion in the version I watched.
Listen, they want to make a sequel and they want him back.
Yeah.
And they need him back because maybe he's going to be the one that's like, he'll have the top half of M3GAN, and he's working on M3GAN, being like, we could have done this better. And he's the whole main character, or he dies in the first 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Well, he's like,
I have to do my science experiment. My wife is expecting me to.
We're not going to get any new IPs for a little while, or sequels to current new IPs. We're kind of up against 11 o'clock here, boyos and girls.
I can see that.
I'm out of notes. I've come to my.
Oh, you guys have notes?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a couple others I'd like to mention if we get a chance.
For sure.
Yep.
One thing I really liked was when the first therapist session, when she comes to Gemma's house to see Gemma and Katie interacting, And so we talked about how like Gemma just hacks open her collectible. It's not a toy, it's collectible. Which, so I get it, like the frustration, like because I could associate with that, like I'm pissed off, so I don't even give a fuck anymore.
But also like wanting to explain the ball and how it works, and like the later being like, maybe Katie should figure it out, and you're like, yeah, but that's not how the ball works. Like I need to tell you how the ball works, please.
That's just the thing, though. So Allison William, aka Gemma, when the therapist is like, oh, it's just a toy, can't be that complicated. She gives this look of like, this is what I work for. Like this is what I do to try and make things.
Caitlin, I'm an illustrator. Anytime somebody calls a drawing that I've done a doodle, it makes me want to strangle them to death.
And you also, like, you see how Katie's like, okay, it's a ball. Like, she's smart. She's not a baby. And then when the only time they like start kind of bonding is like, you know, she's showing her M3GAN and then Bruce, and she's actually really interested in like robotics, and they can kind of like, it's the only time they actually start bonding.
The drawings, Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't get fur right. Yeah, exactly. It's like I have a hard time with
Don't you guys kind of wish that when Bruce came back at the end, he still had the goggles on his face that they put on him?
They took away his little face.
She might have needed them for welding, but still. Because they are welding goggles. The folders, when he goes through the folders, I don't know if you guys looked at any of the folder names when he's trying to find the M3GAN folder. They're all ridiculous. Like, almost all of them are silly. One of them is like... undisclosed pool party game. Like it's just like none of them make any sense. You're like, what's a pool party game? I'm like thinking like lawn darts, but for like a pool or something, and they like swim around the pool.
Fun job just filling the background with little Easter eggs. Like, this is for whoever pauses to watch this.
One of my notes is, oh, Jesus Christ, which we already brought up before when she sees the camp counselor sees M3GAN on the back seat.
Her reaction was so
genuinely freaked out. Yeah,
like not trying to be like, what is that?
I love when the cop is describing the kid's ear being found, and he starts laughing, and he says, "Sorry, I shouldn't laugh."
Yeah, that character.
I got a question, back. Jason. When would you say the Home Alone of it all was?
So, Becca, the Home Alone of it all is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, basically when Kevin McAllister realizes that the wet bandits are going to come into his house, so he has to set up a, booby trap festival. Mm-hmm. When he slaps that blueprint down and you see all of it laid out, and then he starts putting things up, and then they come. That's the Home Alone of it all, right? Mm. I would say the second that she breaks out of the lab.
Wow.
It's taken back to the lab. And I say that because this whole movie I was like, how does her dancing down a hallway for 30 seconds play into this? Because I think that's a very important part of this movie because it was most of the advertising for it. So mm-hmm. I think when she breaks out, they take her back. When they wrap her in bubble wrap, I think is the beginning, is the same as slapping the blueprint down on the table. And then when she basically goes home alone.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Shit's about to...
I think I disagree, but also if anybody else wants to go first, they can.
Is it kind of just I'm trying to understand the Home Alone of it all.
Like, when does it kick off? When does it actually get going? You know what I mean? Like, you have your introductions or build-ups or whatever, I guess, and then you have your catalyst.
I think maybe in the forest when she runs on all fours. Like, that's the she's about to kill a child. She is. That's also her first kind of like zinger. Like, you better run. Like, she's aware. She's
okay, so Becca, that's what she should have said.
Way.
That's what she should have said. She should have said, "You should run," or "You better run." She said, "This is where you run," which is a cliched line that's in so many movies. I wish that she just said, "You should probably run," or like, "You should run now."
I liked it. It reminded me of Mortal Kombat when Johnny Cage says to Goro, "This is the part where you fall down."
Yeah.
But that's why I don't like it, because it's like Johnny Cage is a movie actor who's like, this is the part in the movie where you fall down, because he's like used to like reading a script and being like, this is the part where you fall down. But M3GAN is not in a movie.
But maybe she's she's literally going out of her way to scare this kid. So
she watched Mortal Kombat really quickly.
She's got everything. She's what is she? Wi-Fi or whatever. She's got access.
She's Wi-Fi.
She did not need to go on all fours. That was to freak him the fuck out. That was playing with her food. That's when she got more malicious. So that's why I feel like that was the kind of turning point. Like she's going out of her. She's not just like on autopilot, just trying to protect Katie. She's like going out of her way to like.
She also got attacked by a dog, so she's like, she's emulating the thing that attacked her. Yeah. I like that. Kaylin, do you have yours?
For the Home Alone of it all, when Gemma and Bruce are working together to because first we see Megan, then she blows up or whatever, and then she's working on the fur pets or whatever it's called, and Katie comes and is like, "What are you doing?" And then it's like, "Oh," and then she's like, shows him Bruce, like, "Oh, if I had a toy like that, I wouldn't need any other toy," and that like inspires her to like fix Megan or whatever, and we get the montage, and she's like working with Bruce to like they're both working on it at the same time. I'd call that kind of the Home Alone of it.
I think for me, it's the dog attack when she's looking at the helicopter and she sees the arrowhead, and like at this point, she's still just there to not deal with Katie, but to like protect Katie and help Katie. And then after she gets attacked by the dog, like it's the moment where she gets attacked by the dog, the spark goes off and she stands up and stares at the neighbor. Yeah. And the neighbor's like, "What the fuck?"
I like that.
Like, and still think she's a real girl at this point.
Yeah, maybe she's nearsighted or something, but like her hair all matted and she just has that neutral face that she's got through the majority of the movie, but she's staring and it's like slowly pushing in and it never breaks and she doesn't move her facial expressions whatsoever, but the face of the neighbor throughout that entire sequence changes so many times that you're like, yeah, this is...
I just had a bit of a realization about when she makes that first face, when she makes that like weird like...
When she's supposed to be confused, but she's smirking?
No, like when she's still up on the slab without a...
The beginning, yeah.
I think that's a reference to that that android that exists.
The weird one in real life.
With, like, that
you know what her name is? You guys want to know what her name is?
I can't remember.
Sophia the robot.
Oh,
Sophia.
You know. Yeah. You know what it is.
With a 3 somehow.
I know there was a drag.
Her name's Amica. Amica. Her name's Amica. Yeah, Amica. But also Sophia, I think, is the second version of her, but the first version was Amica, yeah.
Sophia still had a bit of that, like... almost, yeah.
It's like, what do you think about, traffic congestion? And she's like, me. I don't think it's great for anyone.
Question you ask.
Yeah.
I did like when she asked Kurt if he could live with himself after killing his boss. Like, yeah, I can. I can.
Yeah. Absolutely, I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ending of the movie rules. After she breaks out of the lab, it's where the movie gets real good, and she goes kind of full Chucky.
Gets in a fucking Lamborghini.
Yeah, she gets into the nicest car ever. I kind of wish there was a shot, because like she's very small, right? So in my head, I'm like, how's she reaching the pedals and driving? But I wish there was like a shot of her, like, because she's like a nimble, weird robot, she could have like one hand on the wheel and like looking up while like she positioned herself to have the other leg just weirdly contorted driving the car. Like a spider, it would have been kind of cool. But
I pictured her.
I chalked it up to being a smart car, and she just like
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have showed the wheel not having her hands on it or something. True. But yeah, that's true. She took over the phone and stuff. The phone thing was interesting, but that made me feel like the characters in the movie were stupider than they needed to be.
No, but that for me was the full
There was never
giveaway.
a moment in the movie where I thought the characters were dumb until that moment.
That for me was the full giveaway. That and when the Alexa said like whatever, it's an Alexa. But when it said how are you doing today? And then she's like, I didn't program you to ask me how my day was.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh, well...
That's for the audience, though, because if they didn't say that...
Megan controls everything in this world now. Like, she's uploaded her consciousness to the internet.
But it makes you feel like...
She can, like, bounce to thing to thing.
Exactly, that too. That's a really good way to do a poltergeist in a tech sort of Black Mirror-y, sort of
Technogeist.
Techno horror.
Technogeist.
Hell, if you will.
Technogeist? Did we just coin a term?
Yeah, now we should write the movie. Guys, before anybody hears this, Technogeist.
It's live to the internet.
We'll get Becca to call up all your puppeteering friends to get our Robo Ghost going.
Puppets make creepy ass movies, because some people do just get uncanny valley with puppetry in general, and I've had friends that were like my friend was like, I want to come see your show, but my wife is absolutely terrified. They're not.
Some people hate them.
Not gonna enjoy it. I'm like, that's totally fine.
Well, like, you guys remember the Muppets Christmas Carol from when you're younger?
I watch it every Christmas.
Yeah, there's the Ghost of Christmas Past. Kind of reminds me of M3GAN a little bit, like the way she's like fuel. This like floaty ethereal thing, in the face, like this sort of like angelic perfect.
Have you ever seen Lazy Town?
Face.
You want to talk about?
Yeah.
You want to talk about? You want to talk about fucking Uncanny Valley? The puppets in Lazy Town all look like little kids, but like giant heads. They're almost like Garbage Pail Kids.
They took it from like Muppet to a next level where you're like, ugh. Yeah.
The Garbage Pail Kids movie.
A whole other art form is just puppet designing, because you can see how wrong it can go, and how that uncanny valley is very steep, and you can either get a Grogu or you can get a M3GAN, and it can be very different effect.
Or you can get a CGI Tarkin from Rogue One, where he looks like he fell into the uncanny valley and hit every uncanny stick on the way down.
Like that Tarkin in that movie is like right before they like Disney really mastered it, Well,
that was them. They spent like $1 billion to figure it out. And they're like, all right, we're gonna need to spend at least another couple $1 billion to do it.
Kind of fucked up young Leia too.
I thought weirdly Leia looked worse than Tarkin somehow. Like a lot of people are like, the Leia was fine. I'm like, no, I feel like the Leia was not fine. The Leia was somehow worse than the Tarkin.
I thought Harrison Ford aged down was very good. But it's
in the new one, oh god, it was great. But like, again, I've told you the reason your brain is telling you it's wrong is because your brain is worried that you're gonna try and kiss it or something.
Just give it a little kiss, a little smooch.
Yeah, and it might eat your head. Jason, take the wheel for 1 second because I need to use the restroom. I can never make it 2 hours.
Kaylin, tell us about your question.
I would love a bathroom break if Steven is.
Well, we're going home. We're taking her home real soon.
Edit around that.
we won't, because that's not in the budget.
Go ahead and use the bathroom, and we'll talk nonsense in the meantime.
Sounds great. You guys can hang out.
Word.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? I was gonna say
Becca,
something.
What's happening?
She's using the bathroom.
No, she's not. We can't hear you.
Can you see this shit though?
I can see you've gone full AI.
I thought it was going to delete my face and just leave you guys with this beautiful San Francisco, but instead it's deleted everything around me, and so I have some horror show shit happening.
You've gone full M3GAN. Steve's going to watch this on the replay in a couple days and be like, what the hell just happened at the end there?
Good night, Steven.
There's one line that I really liked. Remember this moment. This is the moment that we kicked Hasbro in the dick or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Made me laugh.
That was a good one. Everybody went to have bathroom breaks instead of just ending the episode.
Did you think of the Nintendo Power Gloves when
I did.
Gemma uses those Bruce Power Gloves?
So I actually have something to say about that. They made a way bigger deal about the fact that you had to do this with them.
Punch them. Yeah.
And I thought that was going to come back. It only came back in so much that she was just being taught how to use them.
I think that was also just a cool thing. Like,
Absolutely.
They just wanted it to be a cool thing.
But the way that it was presented made it seem like it had something to do with something in M3GAN, is the way I interpret it. Like, it seemed way more like it had something to do with the plot, but it didn't. It was just that this is how we start up. It also reminded me of like some John Carpenter shit,
Yeah, maybe there was something that they wanted to do with it, and they just couldn't, because like it kind of looks like a Rock'em Sock'em robot, right? Yeah. Like maybe she designed it to be like a weird like a Pokemon thing or like a Beyblades, but you can like battle your your robots together. Maybe
I think that's a
what
way
she wanted.
cooler. I think that's a way cooler toy. I guess that's the difference, though. Toys for boys is the fighty big boy, and the
exactly.
Toy for
I mean,
girls
that's
is the
probably maybe that's what she was
fucking
designing, right? Was like
doll.
a robot to fight, right? She's like, oh, maybe we'll make Pokemon that you can have in your house that you and your neighbor can put your Bruces together and.
What?
Yeah, so an innuendo. Yeah. Put your Bruces together and find out.
Adam and Steve.
How would you guys teach your kid to use a coaster?
Fucking use a coaster, kid. Figure it out.
I mean, I'm still bad at using coasters, so I don't know because I'm not even really great at it.
I'd say, what are you, spare parts, bud? Figure it out. Put a coaster down.
Wow, that's a really rude thing to say to your child.
I watched a lot of Letterkenny.
How much tech would you?
I mean, it's a coaster. What do you? That's expensive enough.
Oh yeah,
furniture
Steve hasn't seen this.
About a coaster.
Steve hasn't
oh my
seen
god,
this
you
yet.
look like
This happened.
you look like a poster for like what's the guy who directed Annihilation? Like a new poster for that guy.
Oh, I forget.
If we have an awards show at the end of the year,
Alex Garland.
Becca
you're a new
for,
Alex Garland movie. Yeah.
Becca wins for best original special effects in a podcast.
Best original unintentional special effect.
Speaking of unintentional, did you guys? I don't know if it was intentional or if it was just what's the word I'm looking for? A take that happened and then decided to keep it. But when
I thought you were gonna say intentional. I'm like, was it unintentional or what's the word I'm looking for? God.
when like a PR lady or whatever she is, and then Kurt, and then Dave, is it David? I think is the boss guy. He tells him to go get him a drink or whatever, and the PR
kombucha.
Lady, yeah, kombucha, yeah. The PR lady looks like she's hiding a smile, and I feel like that was natural of the actor, and they just decided to keep that take, and it worked perfectly. But I feel like it was an accident.
I don't remember that moment, to be honest. I remember him trying to get water out of an empty water jug.
Yeah, and then throws the cup.
And then he breaks the cup and there's water in it. And I was like, what the? I thought the whole thing was that there was no water in there. I was more confused about that. But sometimes when characters break and they have a natural smile, it adds a little bit of authenticity to the scene that
exactly.
You know?
The Office has a lot of that.
Yeah. My favorite blooper of The Office is when Idris Elba is like laughing at Kevin Malone, like delayed saying hello. He's like, "Hello, everyone," and then everyone's like,
"Hello,"
hi. And then he starts talking, and then Kevin goes, "Hi." I guess we're near the end.
We
folks.
did it.
Yeah,
we're near the end of the podcast. We talked about M3GAN. We didn't really go through the story beat for beat, but like it ends with a pretty.
I think it worked out fine.
It was a ride. It was
I think the beat for beat, as somebody that listens to our shows back a lot, I think the beat for beat almost stagnates it a bit.
I agree, man. I watched our Event Horizon, and we shouldn't have gone beat for beat on that. We should have just talked about the concept of going to hell for.
I think horror specifically lends itself to just remember this part. And then I think a comedy movie is one where we got to go beat by beat.
We did get a good conversation about Lawrence Fishburne's weird chair, which I liked.
A weird chair?
Yeah. But so what we do now, Becca, is we go through and we just kind of give a little final blurb about how we felt about the movie. And if you have a moment that you think really worked well in the movie, tell us about it. And if you have one that you think could have been better or something that you would have added as a person who watches lots of movies, tell us about that. You can go first if you'd like, or we can have somebody else go first. I'll let you decide.
No, y'all go first. I can.
All right, Kaylin, hit us with your best shot.
You got it. So I think and I said this earlier. So I like these technology horror. The technology horror genre, and this one nailed it. It had a great balance of horror and comedy. The dialogue felt real. I could see Chucky and Megan being a couple, but who am I to assume, anyone's preference? Why not Megan and Annabelle? Why not Megan and Furby? Or why not Megan and like a little dog that
This
does
is
like
how
a little
this is how
flip
Kaylin plays with his action figures. When you go over to someone's house and they're like, I can't mix the Star Wars toys with the Batman toys, but Kaylin's like, Barbie and Ninja Turtles are friends now.
That was me. I had Barbie and they lived with Shredder from the Ninja Turtles.
Of course. Shredder's
With
the dream house together.
Yeah, he's like 3 feet shorter than them, but he was a good dad.
I hated how they made that figure all hunched over. That pissed me off.
The Shredder figure, yeah.
All of the Ninja Turtles figures had hunchbacks, like every single one of them.
Yeah. For my what went well, I mean the whole movie was like it was great. It was perfect. I pretty much don't have an even better. I'll get to that in a second. But for my what went well, I went with her movements, Megan's movements. When it's actually the actor doing it. And I did look into it a little bit. She is a dancer, and she was like the way she controlled herself to make those static movements was great. It really sealed the deal for me. For my even better, I was originally going to say that the assistant Kurt having stolen the company information, schematics, stats, whatever. I felt like was like it was a cliffhanger or whatever. Like it didn't have closure.
It was almost like a misdirect or a red herring, or it felt like there should have been more there for sure.
Yeah.
But that potentially leads to a sequel. The information he stole is what's going to lead to the sequel potentially, or whatever, right? So
it'll be another company. It'll be the other company making the shittier doll, and it'll be like Kumail Nanjiani turning around, being like, "Well."
Exactly.
I'd watch that.
There really wasn't anything bad, but to pick something, I just went with the consistency of Megan. And again, like I understand it, like it's for when you have the actual actor versus you have a animatronic or puppet or CGI. It wasn't huge. It's not a deal breaker, but as far as just to pick something as an even better would be just the consistency, mostly in her face. Like there was a few moments where her face was bigger. It was just, I could tell that it was CGI or it was an actor wearing a prosthetic. That being said, this movie is a buy, and I was going to give it a 3 on its, a 3 down, a 3 upright, a 6, a pointy 4, and a 2
pointy 4
down. It has to be a pointy 4. There's
I
different
give
types
this
of
a
4s.
pointy 4. Yeah.
But instead of that, I give it partying with Megan at her wedding with whoever she chooses to marry.
That's pretty good.
Oh, also MPAA 54108.
Right.
All right, Becca, do you want to go next?
Sure. You may have to remind me of the format, but like overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love a horror comedy. I feel like I have to be in like the mood to be like psychologically fucked, look at a bunch of gore. This is exactly like my speed. Like I watched the PG-13 version and fully enjoyed it. And I could kind of, I could see the subtitles like, oh, that's where they swore. That's funny. But like, I wasn't really missing the blood splatter. I didn't need that. And I kind of liked, I don't know, because she is like a doll. She has that like youthful kind of perfect thing. Like you didn't miss it. You knew she was evil. You knew she would you didn't need the cake on a.
You knew she was evil immediately. Yeah, as soon as they put that wig on, you're like, okay.
You didn't need the blood or the guts or the knives, but and then after a while, she kind of just turns into, and that's why I really liked her kind of coming into her own at the end, and almost like good for her, kind of weird way, but like not good for her. She's awful, but like everyone else is kind of awful. The only even better.
Or what went well, even better. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like the performance was really good. Like I even like the dance in the hallway, like it's very memeable, but I still really like that moment still hit. Like it didn't just it wasn't just those couple moments that was like, that was really funny, because you can have one bit of a movie and be like, this is hilarious, and like the rest of the movie was fucking whatever. Or like, I can't believe this happened in this 3rd season of this. I'm like, I'm not gonna wait till the 3rd season before it starts getting interesting. Like, but it was consistently funny throughout. And then even when it got to that minute, I'm like, oh my god, there's like no reason for her to like dance at him other than just to
fuck with his brain.
Just to fuck with his brain. I was like, you're vicious.
He's like, Megan, and she's like, I'm not even gonna respond to you other than dancing at you.
Yeah, it was so unhinged, and I loved it. Only thing that I was like kind of eye rolly at was that what's the YouTuber's name? Her assistant.
Ryan Jordan Alvarez.
The other assistant. They both were just very like completely interchangeable and had zero personality. But like, was there a lot of room for extra characters? Not really. Like, it's a pretty tight script. We didn't really need. That's why I actually wasn't super bothered with the backstory of the stealing the documents. Actually, when that happened, I was like, I don't want to watch him like leak the info. I want to watch Megan kill people. And then that's exactly what happens. I was like, excellent, thank you. And I will happily watch it again in a sequel, which is now allowed to happen because he stole the documents. So lovely.
Yeah. There are moments like that where, like, imagine there was a shot where he's leaking the documents, and then it pans in on the laptop or whatever, and it gets really close, and then it pans out again, and it just keeps panning out, and it's like inside Megan's eye or something, where you're like, I now know that she knows that he did that. And like, I mean, it's accomplished in the elevator at the end when she's like, I know you did that. But like, if she just knows the whole time, then you know she knows, and you know that she's way more powerful than you think she is. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's the point, right? Like, you're not supposed to really fully understand how much control she has until the end of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
But they also, there's the moment where she's like, let go of her. Remember when they're kind of fighting, and she's like, well, calm down, like, just chill out. And he's like, let go. And like the whole house like flickers, the lights and everything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so Megan is already interfaced with the home. Like, she can
Technogeist.
She can turn the lights on and off.
It's interesting though, like, that seems to be mostly what's her name's home, because not everyone else was as high tech. Like her,
of course, she's got a full smart home, clearly.
So they bought themselves a bit of time for this actor.
But then you also already know sort of that, like, the entire building that she works at is similarly set up, because they were able to lock him out of the office at the beginning when they're working on it. And like, and he's like, I need a key card. I need a key card to get in here.
I really loved her when the alarm goes off after the explosion, she walks by the like panel and it just goes off. Like,
yeah, that is my moment that I'm going to talk about. But Jason, why don't you go next?
I really enjoyed Megan. The practical effect of the doll was really good. Well done. Even though it was mostly just a girl in a mask most of the time. The cast was great. It was awesome to finally see Ryan Jordan Alvarez in a movie. And he did such a great job, even if it was a super minor, like, tertiary role.
Yeah. I think just working on his intern shit.
Perfect. That's you got to start somewhere. Like, that dude's probably 30, right? Like, he's not old. So he's got a career.
He's older than 30.
I think he's older than I am.
See?
He's not older than me.
You're not that much older than me.
That's true.
I only look old because I'm gray.
I think this.
Have you tried the old age filter on TikTok?
Yeah, like, Jason or Kaylin just looks the same. It's like, oh god.
Actually, yeah, Kaylin just is me with he's AI of me with an age filter.
Yeah. This is just a dual thing. This is the recording of Jason from another episode.
I think this movie works better though if it were a little more like Chucky. Like, there weren't enough kills, in my opinion. But that said,
you gotta watch unrated.
I know. We've gone through that, and I'll get to that in a sec.
There aren't more kills in the unrated. They're just more gruesome.
But the thing is like, this does feel like the first one in at least a trilogy. You know, yeah. That's what I'm. After talking to you guys about this too, it feels like, especially it did well. If we don't at least get a sequel, I'm going to be so disappointed. Well, I do.
I gotta say, I think 13 times their budget earned back. I think they'll get a sequel.
Well, I do get that they were attempting to have a bit more of a story than the classic killer doll movies of the 80s. You know, that's
Yeah, they were trying to do a Black Mirror episode of Chucky, and they did a good job. Like, they did a very good job. Yeah.
I give this movie I do a number rating, Becca. These guys think that it's arbitrary and stupid, but it's in line with
I never said it was stupid. I just said it's arbitrary.
Definitely arbitrary, but it's in line with my Instagram page, which I do ratings. I have my own side hustle. I give this a 3.3 out of 5. I think it's pretty good. Very solid 3.3 out of 5. I also give this movie a TikTok dance sequence to sell a pretty decent horror movie. And I also give this this fucking move, whatever.
Yeah.
I also give this movie a PG-13 rated horror movie that I really wish that had a hard R rating, but I can just go watch the hard R rating if I want to.
It's not even that hard though. It's just R. It's not even a hard R, you know?
Well, there's lots of fucks and there's a lot more blood. At any rate, what went well, I would say M3GAN as a whole. I loved looking at her. I loved her sass. I loved her evolution. She kind of represents the evolution of grimoire familiar killers kind of a character. That's what we call the big four.
I am definitely going to add her to the grimoire illustration page next year.
Yep. And even better is literally like more kills, like more varied kills, but at the same time, like I just said, I think that this movie lends itself to having sequels where we're going to get her doing more elaborate kills, just like Freddy, Jason, Mike Myers.
All our favorite killers.
All the favorite killers from the grimoire. So we kind of opened the grimoire tonight a little bit, it felt like.
This is almost like we have the grimoire and we were like, let's do this. And then we did Cocaine Bear and we're like, we didn't even think of the grimoire. And then we did this and someone was like, it smells like old leather in here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And we all look behind us and the grimoire is there and the page is open and
how'd the grimoire get in here? Who opened the grimoire?
Cocaine Bear's a little sad. Cocaine's a little bit sad because Cocaine Bear really just wanted to be part of the pantheon.
The grimoire, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't pull it off. Also, it's a lady bear.
Yeah.
It is a lady bear, yeah.
Lady bear.
Is Cocaine Bear worth a watch?
It's worth a watch. It's
worth
super
a
gory,
watch,
though.
yeah.
It's like super gory. Yeah.
But it's all CGI
don't
gore,
go
so
with
it's
any
not
expectations.
not that bad.
CGI gore.
Don't go with any expectations.
It's a
Just
way dumber story than this movie too. Heads up.
Yeah.
Let it be
it's
what
funny.
it is, and just accept it for what it is, and you'll be fine.
I will say that I laughed
chin,
more
it is a
heartily
cocaine
and
bear.
realistically in this movie than I did in that movie, and I was laughing more like, this is clever. They did a clever thing in this, but like it's not great.
I was laughing out loud during
that
this movie, and during Cocaine Bear, I was like, would say out loud, that's funny.
Also, I will say that what we're talking about right now is sort of the embodiment of how I felt about this movie as my final thoughts. Like, it's a horror movie, yes, going in, but as you walk your way through it, it has all these like little interesting and fun moments that you didn't expect to be in it. I love all the montages. I love all the moments that are meant to like feel like advertisements because they pull it off in such an interesting and fun way right from the get-go. You know, the poop dolls and like the fact that there's two companies. It reminded me of Small Soldiers a little bit at certain points. Like she even says like it's not just a toy at some point. I'm like, it's not just a toy. It's, you know, like, I was like, that's the literal line from Small Soldiers. And I started thinking like, you put munition chips in toys.
Hello, Chips.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Chips. And like I walked through this movie the first time not knowing what to expect and thinking it was going to be more Chucky scary, and then realizing it's more of a comedy. And then this second time going through it, I was appreciating it more for what they were doing, and it's a little bit more deep than you think when you think about it. Like I was saying, like the part where she's looking at the helicopter, and I really liked what you said where you were like, I thought she was just on like defense patrol. But like my mind on that second viewing was like, is she looking at that helicopter thinking like, am I just that helicopter? And I'm doing the same thing that it's doing right now. Like it's flying around, also doing a survey protection, and like she's doing the same thing in that yard. I think that the acting was stellar for the child performance. as well as the doll performance. There's a couple of things that you're like the psychiatrist was good, but at the same time she was a little bit like, oh, like she seemed very like she was doing a little bit too much at points, but it wasn't bad, and it was good for what the movie is. It is campy, right? Like the whole idea is campy, from style to music to cinematography, all of it.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a fucking great movie while you're watching it. It's again one of those ones that like after you're done, you look at your friends and you're like, that was pretty good, but then you kind of forget about it. But while you're watching it, you forget about everything else for a minute, and you are locked in to everything that's happening. Yeah. My what went well is, like you said, Jason, just M3GAN as a performer, and we talked about it multiple times throughout. Like it's a doll, it's a group of puppeteers, it's an actress who's dancing, and it's a voice actor who's killing the performance, and then it's also an audio editing team that's taking that voice performance and making it way creepier and way more interesting, as well as the composer that's like pairing all that together. And it's just like all of it working as one unit works so well for me. What went well, I liked those elements that they set up for a sequel, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of it in the movie. But I think that my one main what went well is what could have been better, is when she escapes the lab and the music starts playing and the alarm is going off, and she walks by that thing and just turns it off. I would have loved if there was like some shot we clip to like a security office and you see her moving and you see the CEO running, and like she just hucks that thing at him and like hits him down in the hallway, and then a bunch of security guards come out as she's pulling the the paper cutter out, and she does like a John Wick style, like where she kills like 5 security guards in the hallway, where it's like an extended sequence where you take that music that's playing and you make it into almost like a ballet of her like killing people. Like give her a moment where she does become some sort of like crazy Chucky murderer, but like, and because like she's so, the running in the earlier parts, the sequence where she's dancing and like all that stuff, it's like it seems like she should be able to run up a wall and like decapitate a guy or something, like that would have been, I think, maybe more interesting.
Expected like a hallway fight based on
right on the hallway
footage. It was just one guy and she was just dancing at him, just trying to spook him, and then I think they ran somewhere else too, right? They got in the elevator.
They run into the elevator and that's where she kills them both, but like I think they could have been an interesting and it would have made her seem way more dangerous, but maybe they couldn't do that because then it would seem like, why is she able to be defeated by Bruce and all that in the garage at the end? But I mean, I want to see her murder like a spider, like she's running on the walls and stuff and just like doing some crazy shit. I mean, am I wrong, people?
Hey, a doggo.
Jason just remembered he had that power.
Puppy. No, I didn't. I used
Hey, puppy.
No, I didn't. All right.
Oh, wait, I got a perfect one for this. Hold on. I got a perfect for this. I got a perfect one.
What the dog doing?
What the dog doing? All right. Well, I think that brings us to the very end of the episode.
Verhoeven of it all.
The Verhoeven.
Introduce us all, Steve.
So,
oh wait, hold up. I just wanted to say one thing. This is the first episode, I think, that Canada is represented on all coasts. The East Coast, the West Coast, and Central Canada. So, hello, everyone across the nation.
Oh, you're talking about us?
Yeah, all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, West Coast.
Kaylin's in Halifax. We're in Ontario. We're smack dab in the... We think it's the center.
This is what we... Yeah, it's a butthole.
We're in the... I call Toronto the
one
basement.
For like the 6? What was it? It was stupid.
We probably shouldn't throw gang signs on Twitch.
Yeah,
we're on that coast that
you're gonna get us murdered over here.
To be Pacific.
I don't think they'll assume that I am necessarily. I don't know that would be the assumption that I give off necessarily. I'm trying to have those secret communications
with your secret West Coast gangs.
West Coast gang.
Okay,
the Mountaineers.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
That one's dangerous. That one you can't play with on the internet.
What about this one?
Is that from Bob and Peppermint?
I don't know. It reminds me of a butthole and then the fart noise, and we're in the middle.
I hate that sound. I couldn't look at any memes with that one. It just drove me nuts.
All right. It has happened. We've reached the end, and we went half an hour longer than we should have, but here we are.
That's for your editor to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm the editor.
That's for
what are you talking about?
You don't edit anything. You just take the episode and throw it up. That's not editing.
Comb through and take out every joke that didn't land, every moment.
That never happens. I think it was an interesting conversation. But what I really mean to say is thank you once again, Becca,
Becca.
Thanks for having
us. Thanks for joining us, Becca. Come back anytime.
Yeah, is there anything that you would like to plug at the end of the episode that you've got going on in your day-to-day life?
My day-to-day life is in audio, which is cool, and I'm no longer acting, which is fun, but I still have stuff that exists out there. So our podcast that I did a couple years back, we did part of a team called Quantum that is actually not too dissimilar to the first half of M3GAN, about little AI pets that are adorable and people love, and we actually have like a character that is similar to Ronnie Chang in this movie. An Elon Musk-esque, a Zuckerberg type. It's
also known as a rich asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think even when he fires his assistant, I was like, was ours also named Shelly? No, it was Kelly, and it's like, call new Kelly. Fuck this, like Kelly and Shelly. So yeah, it's called Quantum. It's on Quantum with a KWAN to make it harder to
find. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been out since 2021, 2022, but started pre-pandemic. Just a group of actor-writer friends and trying to create something just like you guys. It's like gathered together every once in a while, and then it just kept growing, and it exists in the world, and that's more than you can say for lots of podcasts. So.
That's true. Exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. We love you, and we will have you back. If you want to come back for all right, ladies and gentlemen.
Particularly for horror movies.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, if we've piqued your interest,
so I need an excuse to.
But if you liked M3GAN, then he might like the Chuckies, and if you can if you can get up to Chucky 4 and you want to do Chucky 4 in October, then yeah.
Or if you just watch Bride of Chucky, like I don't know if you'll need all the Chucky lore to really get a doll gets married.
I mean, I'd say do the first one and do the third one.
Yeah.
Was the third one? Which one was the one in the toy
movies? You can skip couples and still kind of get the,
Yeah. But I will say that Chucky 1 and 2 are great. Chucky
was it 2
3...
that was in the Toy Factory?
This is the podcast.
Okay, yeah, do 1 and 2.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
I'm officially inviting you, so it's like getting late for y'all.
Yeah, I'm officially inviting you to come back in October for The Bride of Chucky, if you would be so kind.
If I can get up to that, I'm happy to do so. And now I have an excuse to go back and do it. So.
Perfect.
Boom.
And that was my plan all along.
Wow.
M3GAN was a ruse. But I will say, it's the end of the podcast, and I gotta ask you guys really
introduce. You gotta introduce.
I gotta directly say to Kaylin, hey.
No. You gotta say who we are.
For Kaylin and for Jason and for Becca, my name is Steven.
For Becca, for Kaylin and for Steven, I'm Jason.
For Becca, for Steven, for Jason, I'm Kellen.
And I have to ask everybody a question that we've
all
been
wanting.
You don't want mine?
Do the thing.
No, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, I get the game. I get it. I can do this.
It's like zip, zap, zap.
I finally learned snaps. Have you learned snaps? For Kaylin, for Steven, for Jason, I'm Becca, right?
You got it. And we gotta ask everybody tonight now that it's over. Hey, did you see this one?
Oh, hey, did you see this one?
Hey, did you see this one?
You see this one?
We went all over the map with that.
Shazbot was the first commercial. Like that.
Shazbot?
It was like something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Maybe it's a play on Shazbot.
Could be.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Say something ridiculous.
Yeah, the
Ridiculous?
music outro is playing right now, so we're just talking over it, and we
No,
wait until...
we're in the thanks for watching screen now.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
So say something that nobody will ever hear.
Or say again.
Whisper your dark.
What am I, some sort of cheap dollar store trinket?